Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis today pleaded guilty in the Georgia election case, and a lot of people are, let's just say, mildly perturbed. Jenna Ellis raised somewhere over $200,000 to fight these charges and is receiving criticism for, in the end, just accepting a plea deal and then apologizing to the court, saying she regretted everything she did. And one by one, the dominoes fall. I have trouble understanding how any of these people could have taken the positions they've had during 2020 and then just flip in the way they did. But this is going to be somewhat troublesome for Donald Trump. However, he's also filing to have one of the January 6 cases dismissed on double jeopardy grounds, which is really, really interesting as well. So we'll talk about that. Plus, of course, there's like World War III stuff happening. Iran is once again attacking U.S. targets. The U.S. is ramping up its forces in the Mediterranean. And there's this really funny video going around where this Gen Z guy, it's like he's trying to say he won't be drafted, but then it's basically him begging not to be drafted. Like, you want me to fight for this country? I don't want to do it. And it's like, oh boy. Look, I like very few Gen Z relatively voted, but the ones that did overwhelmingly vote for Democrats. So, hey, this is Biden country, baby. At the very least, if you didn't vote for the guy, well, I'm sorry it's happening to you. And this is why you got to vote for Donald Trump. But we'll talk about that. Before we get started, head over to castbrew.com. Buy our coffee. This show is sponsored by Cash Brew. If you want the best coffee you've ever had, hop over to Cash Brew. Pick it up. We got whole bean. We got ground. Everyone's favorite is Rise with Roberto Jr., a light roast. But we also got Appalachian Nights Dark Roast Blend. That's personally my favorite. If you want to support the show, you can join the Cash Brew Coffee Club. You can check out cashbrew.com. Also, go to timcast.com. Click Join Us if you want to support our work directly. You can buy the coffee, or you can just say, hey, you know what? I like you guys so much. I'm going to become a member. As a member, you get access to our uncensored members-only shows Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. We're going to have one of those for you tonight. And you, as a member, can call in, submit questions, and talk to us and our guest, and get access to our Discord server, which you'll have to do if you want to submit questions and hang out with like-minded individuals who create their own shows and have their own projects. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's really awesome. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Kash Patel.
Hey, it's great to be back with you. Just coming off the heels of my book launch. Yes, selfish plug, Government Gangsters. The Biden administration spent 10 months trying to block its release. Had to go to federal court and sue to get it out. Wow. You got to understand what's in there. Donald Trump launched it on Truth Social a couple weeks ago. Already a bestseller. He calls it the roadmap and blueprint for 2024. Basically, it's how you destroy the deep state. And I name every government gangster I ever encountered by name and title. And I also put the government receipts in there. The Biden administration came back and said, national security secrets can't go to print. They redacted less than 0.05% of my book at the end of the day.
0.05.
0.05.
Sounds juicy.
The same 7 words, 8 times over.
Really?
It's hilarious.
Can you not say the words?
I can after the show. It's kind of funny, but it's hilarious. But that's the whole thing, And so go to governmentgangster.com, get your signed copy today. Help me crush the deep state.
Right on. Yeah, everybody buy it. We'll get it to the top. It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
We'll get it to number 1.
Amazon, Target, all that stuff. Yeah.
Really great. Thanks for hanging out, man. Should be a blast.
Awesome.
We got Hannah Claire hanging out.
Yeah, hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. That's a fantastic book recommendation. If the Biden administration doesn't want you to read it, you should buy it immediately.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm with Timcast News, and Brett's here also.
Yes, hello. I am Brett Dasovic. I am the host of Pop Culture Crisis, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube.
And I am Serge.com. I just got a Truth Social account.
Boom.
Cash.
3 new Truth Social users. Let's go.
Brett as well.
Bring it on.
Mine right now.
Oh, there we go.
It's about to be Donkey Kong on there. Donald Trump has been going bananas on Truth Social, and it's just going to get better.
Time to retruth stuff.
Yeah. I can't wait to do some retruthing. Anyways, guys.
That doesn't sound like propaganda at all.
Let's jump into this first story from the New York Times. Oh. Jenna Ellis, former Trump lawyer, pleads guilty in Georgia election case. 3 lawyers indicted with Trump for trying to, 3 lawyers indicted with Donald Trump for trying to overturn the 2020 election results will now cooperate with prosecutors in the racketeering case. I believe this makes 4 guilty pleas. Mm-hmm. And Sidney Powell got 6 years of probation. And then the other 3 got 5 years. Jenna Ellis got 5 years. I believe she also got 100 hours of community service.
Ooh. And pay a fine.
And pay a fine. We have the video here. I'm going to play it for you.
God.
Let's, we're going to listen to what she had to say.
Here come the tears.
Audio's good?
Yep.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously.
Sorry, I can't.
And I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people.
So I hope several other states file criminal charges against her and she goes to prison for a very, very long time. Did you hear what she said? She confessed to trying to overturn an election, a duly elected Joe Biden. She confessed to doing it. No, in all seriousness, I think it's fair to say she's opened the door legally by stating that in Georgia and many other states, she did this thing. And if there are other states in which Democrats have any kind of legal capability, they could charge her as well and then make her go through it all over again. The biggest mistake all of these people are making, in my opinion, is taking the plea deals. I've heard a lot of people say the cases against these individuals in Georgia is so weak that the prosecutors didn't want to go to trial. And I'm like, then you go to trial. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you say
that's the reason to do that.
Yeah, this shows she was terrified. And so I'll say this, just on the surface. If it is true that she and many others knowingly lied to commit this crime, then I think they're getting off easy. Otherwise, she genuinely believed she was doing her constitutional duty in providing a legal service to an individual who's seeking a redress of grievances. And now she is betraying not just that individual, but this country. So in that case, lock her up. See if I care. She'll get no defense from me. And not to mention, I mean, we'll get into it in a little bit, but like the hundreds of thousands of dollars she raised, a lot of people are really upset about this. You know, what does it mean to give someone's legal defense? She paid her lawyers with the money. Does it mean she's taking it all the way? Some people were saying she should take a plea agreement, but I'm curious what you think, man. I mean, you worked in the administration.
Yeah, look, I was a prosecutor, as a public defender. The interesting thing about this entire case, I mean, put aside the fact that I don't think there's a basis to bring it, but let's put that on pause for a second. And the first three guys out of the gate that flipped are lawyers. And what does that mean? What did they actually do? Having been in the Trump administration and around the boss and literally talking to him every week, these guys didn't really do anything. So, okay, what are they going to say? Are they going to break attorney-client privilege, which they don't hold, President Trump holds, and say, and commit a felony and get disbarred and get prosecuted just to say Donald Trump is guilty of X, Y, or Z? And they're not stupid people. I think the reason they pled guilty is they know the crimes are bogus, but they came in there with so many slews of felonies. So it's like, oh, you're looking at 85 years. Mm-hmm. We'll get you on one. And this jury pool sucks. It's in somewhere in Georgia that is a county that is like 88% pro Biden. So they're going to get convicted. So they're just trying to stay out of jail, pleading to misdemeanors. But I would really like to, and I also looked at
No, that's a felony. I'm pretty sure Jenna Ellis was a felony.
She pleaded guilty to a felony?
I'm pretty sure it was a felony. And because I was reading it and I thought it was
because Sidney Powell was like 6 misdemeanors and they dropped all her
She's the first one to go, though. I mean, they gave her the best deal.
Yeah.
But I want to check because the story I was reading earlier, I'm pretty sure she was the one that was a single felony, which was I thought was interesting. What? Yep. She pleaded guilty to a felony charge.
Wow.
So no more traveling outside the country. Good luck.
It's one count of aiding and abetting false statements and writings for stuff she said to the Georgia Senate.
No. If you commit a felony and it's in the favor of the Democratic Party, like Kevin Kleinsmith, the FBI attorney who lied to the federal court about CIA documents, he got reinstated to the bar last year and has a 7-figure job now.
Well, he's more trustworthy.
Right.
To them
so
now.
this is coming along with her book deal and her tell-all. And I think it's part of the process. It's why you heard from that White House intern who made her lies and launched her bogus book. But this is what they do. The media captures them and says, we're going to launch you to...
part of me says I don't blame any one of these individuals for taking the deal because they all took the deal, right? It is a sign of the weakness of the anti-establishment faction in this country that they don't actually stand up for anything. And then you look at, we talked about this famous makeup artist, whatever her name was,
Her line is Huda Beauty. I can't remember her last name.
She posts in favor of Palestine, gets a whole bunch of backlash, and she says, I don't care. Don't buy my products. I stand for what I believe in. And I'm like, man.
Okay.
I mean, these leftists are willing to just sacrifice everything for like their business, their company, their money. You've got a whole bunch of reports of people getting fired from their jobs. They don't care. It's always been this way. I mentioned this with BLM. The guy who worked at Taco Bell put on a BLM COVID mask, and they said, you can't wear that. And he goes, I refuse to take it off. And they said, if you don't take it off, you're fired. And he goes, fine. Goes outside, films a video and says, I got fired for Black Lives Matter. And then the company apologized. Oh, we're so sorry. What do people on the right do? They take a plea deal. What did Jenna Ellis do? She was a lawyer who was approached by a client who says, here's my argument. Can you draft this for me? And she goes, oh yeah, we'll go through it and we'll advise you on it. And that was it. She had one count under RICO and one count of, I believe, soliciting a public official or something like that. Two charges is what she was facing. And she took a felony plea deal, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and is crying. What I genuinely believe is that Jenna Ellis legitimately thought she was representing her client in 2020 and is now terrified and would rather sell you out, all of us out in this country so that she can disappear into the sunset.
But this is a part of, like, this is an established practice. If you're in Trump world and you're in Trump orbit and you get jettisoned for not doing your job properly, there not only is it a scarlet letter, it's an act of vengeance. Look at the gal that's on the not the Today Show, but The View, right? That's one example. The other intern that wrote the White House book. As long as you get jettisoned from Trump world and are willing to play ball, I guarantee you every one of these people has a book deal lined up, has a show lined up, and is now guaranteed not to go to prison. And like you said, they don't have any morals. They don't have any convictions. All they have to do is just say what they want, and they're going to be famous. They're going to go to Hollywood and LA, and people are going to put them on their shows, and they're going to be the greatest saviors of America.
If Sidney Powell, of all people,
Michael Flynn's attorney, I got to remind your audience, Sidney Powell was Michael Flynn's attorney who overturned that case.
And if she of all people will flip on Trump, why would anyone hold the line?
Yeah.
They just watched. It's like being on the battlefield and watching George Washington drop his pants and cry and run from the battlefield. I shouldn't compare her to George Washington, but I'm saying like a bunch of regular people are watching Sidney Powell go on TV and scream and bang her fist and say, I will not back down. The viral video of her saying, I will not be intimidated. And then as soon as they're like, we're criminally charging you, starts crying. She's like, please, I'll do anything you say.
This was a woman who was one of the people smiling in her mugshot, right? Yep. She presented this.
Jenna Ellis.
She was
too. She presented this intensity to an extreme degree. How can we have a country where we're saying, we're anti-establishment, you've got to confront the values here, you have to stick by these things, and then you have these people immediately turn. I mean, obviously it's what the Democrats want, but in some ways, to me, it really foils the motion that Trump filed today in his January 6th case, saying, you should dismiss the case because of First Amendment and double jeopardy. But one of the lines in the case was, under the First Amendment, Trump and his supporters have the right to question and doubt what the government tells them. And so this idea that like she knowingly promoted false information, number one, did she know it was wrong? And under the First Amendment, doesn't she have the right to doubt it? I mean, it is sad to see someone who could have argued a really articulate message in court take the plea deal. I understand that there's pressure. On the other hand, if we're a values-based movement, you need people who are willing to defend their values.
The bravado is always so much more so online than it is in the real world. But also, like you said, like for somebody, like you were talking about the makeup, she was a makeup distributor, right? She's signaling to her base who's going to support her anyways. But when somebody who's anti-establishment on the right is pushing back, they feel a lot of the times like they're out on a life raft once they actually put themselves out there like that, because where is there to go if it all falls through and they start coming at you with criminal charges? That you do have to, especially if they have a family, if they have kids and stuff like that, they're thinking about what that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's right, wrong. I'm just saying I understand where the mindset comes from, where at the end of the day, a lot of these people are going to put themselves and their loved ones first over the movement, because that's just hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of them.
I think this is a direct result of the two-tier system of justice that's been built in this country. It's one of my biggest grievances in government gangsters. And it's not just in federal court, it's in state court. And what Tim said was, they've flipped. That's the key for me. Okay, what did they flip on? But what they're doing is they're going out to the New York Times and saying, "Ooh, we got Trump's 3 top lawyers." And as a guy from Trump world, I'm telling you, these people barely did anything for the boss. And he came out and announced that Sidney Powell wasn't even his attorney. Yeah. So what they're doing though publicly is they're saying 3 Trump lawyers have now pled guilty to the election fraud scam case run by Donald Trump. They're trying it in the public. They're trying to get more and more dominoes to fall so that when Trump gets to court in Georgia, finally, whenever that is, they're going to say, 14 defendants have pled guilty. You must be guilty by association.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
But where's the evidence? Because if they had it, this is the thing about the New York Times and these corrupt prosecutors. If they had a recording, if they had, the I got you moment, the kill shot, it would have leaked.
This is the evidence.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
When they begin filing 14th Amendment challenges to Donald Trump's 2024 candidacy, they're going to say, the court judge will say, what's your evidence? Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell confessed. We have confessions, Your Honor. We have several confessions.
That Colorado case.
I mean, if they hadn't, to your point, if
Not
they
just
had an ace in the
Colorado.
hole, they wouldn't offer the plea deals. They would want every single person to go down for as long as possible.
As a prosecutor, I was like, I don't want to, you're not going down for 5 years. You're going away for 40.
But it means that they don't have anything.
Right. Your point.
What was the maximum like if she had gone to court and tried her luck, what was the maximum sentence she would have gotten?
I think it's probably 20 years because it's a RICO conspiracy. So
would all the sentences be concurrent?
No, it's up to the judge.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like you could stack them, you can hold them.
She had 2. She had two charges.
Yeah,
so RICO
you can make them consecutive. So it's a total crapshoot. But that 14th Amendment thing, this is just another hysterical thing. Has anyone read the first sentence of the 14th Amendment? I know you guys have. But it says, these individuals shall not. And it names the vice president, the senators, the members of the House of Representatives in lower level offices. You know who doesn't name? The presidency. The 14th Amendment, by its first sentence, doesn't apply to the presidency, and we have all these freaking lawsuits around the country trying to disbar, or whatever the word is, get Donald Trump off the ballot, which is hilarious. And this boondoggle in Colorado, I think, just forwarded the case on to say, this issue is ripe for decision-making because people are talking about it publicly.
So Section 3, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who is having taken an oath as a member of Congress or an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution shall have engaged in insurrection, et cetera, et cetera. So vice president and president are not in here. It says elector of president and vice president. Exactly. The president is explicitly not
in there. What do you think? The founding fathers just forgot?
Well, I mean, this was Civil War era.
No, I know, but they were contemplating, what if we have to kick out these people from office? They contemplated kicking out the president, and they said, no, that power is not going in the Constitution. I mean, that was their decision. Hasn't been overturned in 250
so then
some years.
Where does this all go? I mean,
Supreme Court. All of it.
Yeah, but I don't see the Supreme Court right now siding against Trump on this matter.
No, it's not. But it's going to take 3 years.
I was going to say, how long will it take?
Drain resources.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, look, they're doing it to I've spent $500,000 in attorney's fees on January 6th subpoenas, special counsel subpoenas. I'm just one of the guys. I mean, this is what they want you to do. Cop a plea, bend the knee. We'll give you the book deal. Cassidy Hutchinson goes out in the world and lies. Literally, it's hilarious to me that her most promising statement of truth was President Trump reaching through the beast and trying to grab the steer. Have you been in the beast? I have. There's bulletproof window between the driver and the car part of where President Trump, was she Hulk? Did she punch through the glass window? And how did she see, Trump, right? And how did she even see it?
If someone told me that Donald Trump got really green and big, and then I'd have to believe it.
I think bulletproof glass just gets out of his way. They're too scared of him.
So he's the new Chuck Norris. They'll just turn
right.
There's a
he
Diet
just looks at
Coke.
it and it bursts apart.
It's it is hard to say. What are you going to take? Are you going to take 500 for a lot of these other people, right? Yeah. It's 500,000 in legal fees minimum, or the book deal down the line. And your family doesn't.
Payday.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about winning the lottery. Yeah. You're getting multiple 7 figures just for lying. And you're going to be glorified in the media. The back end of what we have to deal with is if you look up my name in the media, I might be the Antichrist if you believe what the New York Times has said about me. But they will just defame you. They will make up stories. They will attack your family. Death sentences. Yeah. I've gotten those things at my house every other month because they doxed me and let out my personal information. I mean, this is what they do to you.
And the media, it's never end. It's never that pressure never gets turned off.
Never. No.
It's sad to me that there are very few people of conviction. that, you know, this was when I was reading this story earlier on my morning show. I don't understand the perspective of a person who would purport to hold certain values and then sacrifice them at a moment's notice. I understand Jenna Ellis is a grifter. Sidney Powell is a grifter. This is what they are, right? They said all these things they clearly didn't believe. Because the question I have to ask people is like, are you religious?
Yeah.
Christian?
Hindu.
If you were forced by a court to renounce your faith, otherwise you go to jail, would you do it?
They go pound sand. I'll go to jail.
Right. And I'm like, the reason I bring up religion is because this is something that people truly feel as a conviction they cannot sacrifice. And I'm like, to see people like this go up in front of TV and be like, this is true and this is correct, and then turn around and be like, psych.
Well, people who have really strong convictions are vilified by especially mainstream media. I mean, let's look at Owen Schroyer, who reported to jail today, right?
Yeah.
He is someone who has strong convictions and is treated like a complete other because of it by mainstream media if they talk about him at all and what's being done to him, because it's very difficult to spin his case.
Jenna Ellis, this was her Give, Send, Go, and it's the archive because it's been removed. She raised $216,000. This is an archive from earlier today. And it's interesting because there are comments from people saying she should take the plea deal because otherwise she's going to burn through all that money, and $200K is not enough to fight a legal battle like this.
Especially against any government.
But there are a lot of people who are furious, and they thought that they were donating to fight the charges, not for her to just instantly cave.
Well, that's the
and take
thing,
a deal.
right? She came in to be like, okay, you're going to be like the stalwart here. You're going to be the fact witness in this case that exposes the corruption of the deep state in the Georgia state prosecution.
Do you think they turn on Trump and testify against him?
That's the deal they have to sign. My question is, that's in every plea agreement, no matter what. What people don't realize is when you sign a plea agreement that says I'm pleading guilty, you're saying you're cooperating.
Yeah.
I've done 1,001 plea agreements, every one. Whether you actually do down the road, 99% of people never do because it never comes up. But the substantive question for folks like her and Sidney Powell and whoever the other person is what do they have on Trump? Like, what do they have a phone call and a recording that, you know, of conspiring
of words they can make up?
Well, and this AP News, when they covered it, they were saying, you know, ultimately they're going to call into question their credibility because these people were participating in what Trump is being convicted of. And so it's easy to sort of say, but you were doing it too. Why are you turning on Trump? I mean, they're not the stellar star witnesses that maybe the prosecution would want them to be.
You mentioned these book deals and these TV shows. The only course of action that Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell are going to have is to become woke leftists.
Well, they're on their way.
Neolibs, because they cannot show their face.
Oh no!
In a Trump rally, they get tomatoes thrown at them. Boo!
Well,
I mean, figuratively,
they're
they
out.
Get to be the talking head conservatives on
The View and CNN.
and talk about like Cohen. They're going to be like Cohen.
It's
I was so wrong.
No. It's like you were talking about. You know, specifically these three people. They're in it for the attention. They're not in it for the convictions. It reminds me of like 85% of the people that are in Congress, literally. They're there to get rich, to get famous. They don't care about their convictions. Oh, I'll pass this budget deal today and I'll sell my soul tomorrow for you because you're a big lobbyist and are giving me a 7-figure payday. I mean, these people have made a career in D.C. out of these boondoggles. And to me, this is just a different extension of that. While you might not be in Congress, you are going to get a golden parachute of monumental proportions for doing this nonsense.
But their only course of action is gonna be to go the Cohen route and be like,
oh
I was so wrong, and I'm Trump is bad. All these former conservatives who now acted like
Orange Man bad,
the Lincoln Project after 2020. They're like, the job's not done. We're now going after Republican senators, and it's like wait.
No, they're just going after children.
But right. But the Lincoln Project says we want to restore the party of Lincoln. So we must remove Donald Trump. And then once Trump's out, they're like, but we're going to go after other Republicans too. And it's just like, right, because this is their grift.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Oh, it's a money-making scam. Like, these people are getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, if you guys actually knew the amount of 7 figures that is doled out by the Soros-funded boondoggles, by all of these organizations, they are so much more organized than the Republicans ever will be. I hate to admit it, but they are.
Yeah.
And they just stroking checks.
I don't understand. I just really, really don't. There are evil, sick, twisted people. I got to be honest. There's a certain point where money doesn't do anything for you. And I'm like, why sell? Why destroy everything around you for something that you couldn't even really do anything with? Like, to elaborate, you get to a certain point of wealth and I quite literally mean this speaking from experience, where it's hard to track things that you're buying and what you're investing in, and you hire people to do it. And it's just like, for what purpose does it doesn't enrich your life? I mean, for me, a lot of the stuff we do here at Timcast is like investing in the projects, the missions, the people, the culture, building things. Like we bought a building because we're going to open a coffee shop. But for people in this world, when it comes to news and politics, for what reason does Nancy Pelosi need $200 million net worth to sell out and destroy the country? I'm sorry, some people are just evil.
There are jobs that you don't really expect people to make a lot of money in. And we all hear
Congress.
politicians say, I'm here for public service. You know, the most lucrative career I could have gone into.
Right.
The question for me is, with these plea deals, they'll run out, right? We now have 3 people who are willing to testify. At a certain point, Georgia's going to want to have a pretty big show if we've convicted all these people. There are 15 co-defendants left.
So let me ask you, Kash. At a certain point, they stop offering plea deals because they've got now 3 cooperating witnesses who will testify against the others.
Yeah, I think they keep going only because it's free press. Every day, Donald Trump's just a little more guilty. Well, that guy's guilty. That girl's guilty. She's guilty. He's got to be guilty.
And then you get 15 people to testify against Trump, and that's your evidence.
In an Atlanta jury trial, which is like game over. If it was a fair court where you could go in and cross-examine these witnesses and shred their credibility based on their past actions, past statements. These people have been on TV, on national TV, saying the exact opposite of what they're about to testify to under oath, and you would destroy them. But it doesn't matter. It's like a New York City jury. They're going to be like, what? And then wake up when the verdict's due and say guilty. Mm-hmm. In this case, too, look, this is going to go through the Georgia state court system, then the federal court. But the question is, are any of these cases actually going to get to a point where Donald Trump is convicted before the next election and one of these crazy people actually puts him in jail, in prison? Like one of these state court judges says, nope, you can have your appeal, but you're going in the clinic.
I think it's more so to drain his resources and make it impossible for him to campaign properly.
Well, it is. I mean, look, if you have to be in court and not on the road, but take, for instance, I think only what Donald Trump can do. And obviously I'm biased. I'm his national security advisor, but he's in New York City basically campaigning from the courtroom. Yeah. Like the guy comes out every 25 minutes and makes a statement and everyone covers it. He's on Truth Social punching out, hits against Cohen or whoever, or the attorney general.
That's true. I mean, we're talking about these members of Congress who make all this money. And you said like the most lucrative job. Well, a lot of the rank and file members of Congress, you don't even know their names. They don't make any money.
And they're probably there for better reasons than
no.
You got to internet search the wealth of the average member of Congress.
Yeah, it's half of them are millionaires.
It's crazy.
But my point is, not every one of them succeeds in getting attention and getting access. Mm-hmm. So for Donald Trump to be able to walk out of the courtroom every time they call him in and get every eyeball in the country, that's something he could not pay for.
I mean, I love there are tons of journalists that are just on Truth Social to see what he says.
Well,
right?
let's jump to the story from Timcast.com. Trump files motion to dismiss January 6th case, citing double jeopardy in First Amendment. This is interesting. Former President Donald Trump has asked the U.S. District Court of Columbia to dismiss special counsel Jack Smith's case against him for his alleged role in the events of January 6th, citing the First Amendment and double jeopardy. Quote, if there is any constant in our democratic system of governance, it is that the marketplace of ideas, not the mandates of government functionaries, or partisan prosecutors, determines the scope of public debate, stated Trump's reps in a filing. Countless millions believe, as Trump consistently has and currently does, that fraud and irregularities pervaded the 2020 presidential election. As the indictment itself alleges, President Trump gave voice to those concerns and demanded that politicians in a position to restore integrity to our elections not just talk about the problem, but investigate and solve it. So I think what they're saying, here's a quote. Additionally, as the United States Senate has previously tried and acquitted President Trump for charges arising from the same course of conduct alleged in the indictment, the impeachment and double jeopardy clauses both bar retrial before this court and require dismissal. Is that true?
No, I mean, I'm not the constitutional lawyer. I think on freedom of speech and First Amendment grounds, he should, because if you're not, the two-tier system of justice again, right? If you're Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Hillary Clinton, you can say the election was stolen, the election was rigged, this whole process sucks, I didn't win, wah. And then if you're Donald Trump, you're going to prison. So on that just basis alone, by the way, this judge could not be more corrupt and biased. We can get into that if you want to.
Is that Chutkin?
Yeah, I've literally been before her. But The double jeopardy. Here's a really crazy thing about double jeopardy, and I only know this because I paid attention for like 7 seconds in law school to try to pass the bar exam. You can be charged in state and federal court for the exact same thing. It's not double jeopardy. Yeah. You just can't be charged in federal court twice for the same thing.
Or the same state, I'm assuming.
Or the same state.
It can't be the same jurisdiction.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So on double jeopardy grounds, he's good if he's saying, no, this needs to go because you already are alleging this in the South Florida case in Miami. It's got to go. Then he's got a strong point.
So these are both federal then?
These are both federal. This has to do with the Miami, D.C. case.
Right.
And if they're going to bring more charges or not.
Well, in bringing up, it's interesting, impeachment is not the criminal case. The argument is first they would impeach Donald Trump, then convict him, and then after he's convicted, they can file the criminal indictment and seek to convict him on criminal charges.
Where? In Congress?
So the arguments as to why Donald Trump can't be criminally charged yet is that he has to be impeached for these things first.
But he's been criminally charged.
Right. So the argument is, I can't remember who wrote this. We covered it several.
Oh, I see the legal gymnastics you're talking about. Like,
well, there's a constitutional argument that you can't criminally charge members of the Trump administration or Trump himself because it's the executive branch. You have to seek impeachment. Argument being, the president has broad leeway in taking actions for the benefit of this country or the direction of this country. And if you believe the president has done wrong by this country, you have to impeach him, which is the statement of, I hereby accuse you of high crimes and misdemeanors. Then the Senate convicts him for doing it. Then, after we all agree the president has broken his oath of office or whatever, you then file criminal charges against him.
That's a pretty good constitutional argument. I mean,
it makes the most sense. Because if that was not the case, any blue state could file criminal charges against the president anytime. It's state charges. Oh, the president committed a crime. What? How are we supposed to have a president if, think about the Civil War when the states were upset with Lincoln pre-Civil War and the fears about, imagine if Virginia or Alabama was just like, we're criminally charging the president. Well, you couldn't. That was the argument. He has to be impeached, which is the agreement the president has committed high crimes and misdemeanors and then is removed from office more so than just I'll put it this way. If that is not the standard, then there is no president. A single state could challenge the results of an election by criminally charging a president for anything. So you need a federal level impeachment against him before you can try and criminally charge him at a state level.
Well, you're not supposed to be able to charge him while he's sitting in office. So it's going to be even interesting if he wins 2024. And what are you going to do?
Well, that's exactly the argument they're making, is that the actions they are charging Trump over happened while he was president. In which case,
I agree with that. He should be immune from that prosecution
until he's convicted in an impeachment trial.
Right then. So totally on board with that because he was in the White House. He was still there saying whatever he was allowed to say, and that's protected. But
I would say this too. The reason why I have nothing but disgust for those lawyers like Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell is that it is not just a constitutional duty to provide legal counsel to an individual. It is not just a legal duty to provide counsel to someone who is seeking a redress of grievances. It is an obligation for Donald Trump, if he believes the election was stolen, to pursue all legal methods to investigate and seek remedy. That would mean any lawyer who is taking up that job has a duty to this country to make sure that's the case. For Jenna Ellis to have lied in her previous statements that she believed, or that she, in her arguments, for Sidney Powell to have lied or to have flipped now, they are basically saying the fabric of this nation means less to them than their personal comfort.
Yeah, and what you're also saying is that a sitting president, is not entitled to counsel. Is that the precedent we want to set? Is that the historical foundation we want to set because you disagree with him politically and that decision should be adjudicated at the polls and not in the courts of law? Are we going to now, when President Trump say he wins in 2024, are we going to go back and arrest based on this DOJ's precedent every Joe Biden attorney that worked against electing President Donald Trump and provided advice to Joe Biden saying it was okay to take classified documents out of the, when you were vice president and senator? I mean, that's what they want us to do. And I think they don't care because the mainstream media will cover for them and it'll just be Orange Man bad. But it's a two-tier system of justice. They don't care.
Well, the argument is a three-tiered. You've got the people who get away with everything.
Yeah.
The regular people that get ignored and never
All right.
get any attention, and then the people who are arrested for everything. So there are a lot of people who have talked about going to the police for help because of crimes, and they are completely ignored.
That's true. Go to DC.
Is a big reason a lot of this is going on that right now, given the way approval rates are sitting, are they worried that undecided voters who are looking for something different, who may are like, look, 4 years have gone by. Maybe you forget a little bit of like a lot of these people who maybe didn't vote for Donald Trump in 2020. 4 years have gone by. Things have gotten bad enough now that maybe they're like, maybe I'm willing to go back to that. Is the idea to keep this in the news, keep him in trial, not just in an actual trial, but the court of public opinion, to keep voters from wanting to swing back and possibly give him a shot this time around because you keep dirtying him up by keeping him in the news with all these cycles.
Well, that's the hope. Look, remember, the Democrats aren't stupid. They're evil and they're wicked and they're geniuses at certain points in time when they collaborate together. They don't want Joe Biden to be their candidate. They might not publicly say that, but they're not morons. What they're trying to do is both dirty up Trump and Biden at the same time, and then they're gonna be like, no, we're going after both people. Yep. But they want to give Joe Biden an exit ramp. It's not a coincidence. There are no coincidences in government. Major theme in my book that David Ignatius of the Washington freaking Post comes out and says, "Oh, Joe Biden, you've done so well, but please retire now." That's not a coincidence. That means the FBI and DOJ gave David Ignatius the details of Hunter Biden's criminal case and Joe Biden's criminal case and said, if we don't get this guy out, this is what's coming, and then we're going to indict him. But if we just charge Hunter and we force Daddy Biden to commute his sentence, that's it. Game over. He can't be president.
I think there's a decent probability that Joe Biden gets indicted. For the reasons you just outlined,
they might have to go to that. I'm saying that's their last option.
It's their plausibility shield for middle of the road uninitiated
100%.
individuals.
They'll go to Merrick Garland, who looks like a wet noodle every time he approaches a microphone. Him and Chris Wray, the worst FBI director in history, will go to the microphone and say, "We charge 2 sitting presidents or whatever, one former.
We're
president.
not biased.
We're not biased. Look at this.
Charging Biden too.
We're everybody. Biden's a criminal, and I think
Biden is the sacrificial lamb."
It could come to, I think Hunter's their leverage point. I think they get to that. But here's the thing. They got to figure all this stuff out in the next 90 days.
Yeah.
Once you get past the Iowa caucuses, they can't airmail in Gavin Newsom, the guy they want to come in to be president.
Technically, if Joe Biden is incapable of running, it's something will happen. I mean, you're right in terms of a primary.
Yeah.
But they'll make it happen. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. That's why these articles are starting to come out from left-wing organizations. That's not random.
No.
Yeah.
The government has called them and said, hey, this is coming. We need you to help us grease the skids. Get rid of this guy politely, and then we'll glorify him for being the savior from Trump. That's what they will literally write about him for decades to come if this play happens, and half of America will buy it.
That's why I kind of think a medical issue is the more likely out for Joe Biden.
Well, you just have to watch him on TV for like 30 seconds if you want a medical issue.
But how do you get Kamala Harris out of the way? How do you get Joe Biden to not run? And how do you get a Gavin Newsom in? Joe Biden has a medical issue. Gavin Newsom runs out on stage, performs CPR, saves the life of the president. I mean, think about it. And then Kamala Harris assumes the role, acting president for the remainder of the year, but then says,
I really want to take that Senate seat in California. I need to return to my home.
No. She's going to go take her $10 million payday.
But what she'll say is, I am honored to have served this country as acting president.
I took out Trump with Biden, the greatest victor.
Right. And I believe it is not in the cards for me to pursue an election with such short notice. So I'd like to honor, with honor and humility, offer up Gavin Newsom and ask him to lead this nation. And then you get a Gavin Newsom. That's why Newsom's probably he's debating DeSantis next
on
month.
the 30th,
which is
this month?
November. Sorry.
For Tater Ron to go in there and accept this debate just shows you the disparity of where these two individuals are.
You want to know my conspiracy theory is?
Yes, I do. But you know what's hilarious for your audience? I go to engagements around the country for Donald Trump all the time. I do big events, whatever. Ron DeSantis should call in for presidency when he could put more people in a room than Kash Patel. I mean, have you seen his events? It's sad.
Here's what I think. A year and a half ago, we were talking about Ron being president. I mean, tons of outlets were having this conversation before Trump announced, before he was back in the game. And there was conversations when Trump was announcing that a Trump-DeSantis ticket would be unstoppable. Before DeSantis.
I remember being part of those conversations.
Here's my conspiracy theory. special interests who establishment interests knew that was the case, probably looked at the polling data and says Trump's a wild card that pisses people off, but DeSantis stabilizes his numbers by being that more boring regular politician. We need to make sure they can never form that ticket. So they go to DeSantis, whisper sweet nothings in his ears. And I wondered this. And I say it's a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying I literally believe it's absolute. I'm saying just entertain the interesting thought based on this. If you look at what Ron DeSantis' campaign has been like, your only conclusion could be that he is being sabotaged. Have you seen him wearing the high heels?
Oh, the cowboy boots with the big lifts.
Big lifts is an understatement.
You should have just gone straight to platforms. You know?
The front
American
of the boot
flag
is
platforms.
flat and bent, like there's no foot in it. It looks like his foot is pressed up against the front of the boot, and there's a 4-inch lift in them. Now, I'm not saying I know for a fact that's true, but these are the memes that are coming out. You look at how Ashley St. Clair made a joke about it, and Christina Pushaw starts attacking her, and I'm like, are they intentionally nuking? The first thing I said was, I believe that Ron DeSantis' campaign staff are secret Trump supporters who are intentionally nuking his campaign to help Trump. Then I thought about it and I'm like, maybe the real goal is to stop DeSantis from having teamed up with Trump in the first place, because now that relationship is beyond repair.
Yeah.
It's nuked.
Yeah, and I don't really understand why it would not have been good for. I know there's that whole thing, if you have your moment in politics, you don't want to miss it. But would DeSantis have suffered from being vice president?
No.
I don't think he would. I mean, he can't be governor again, right? Isn't he term limited? So
Right.
where does he go? Vice presidency is not a bad idea, especially to gain official exposure on the national stage.
Or you give him a secretarial position in the cabinet, Secretary of Agriculture, whatever, right?
Education, that was like one of his big deals.
Have it out for like 2 years or 4 years, and you'd still only be 46. At the time of the end of the second Trump administration, you can run in. But I think it's not a conspiracy. So you got to look at DeSantis' top 3 donors. Ken Griffin from Citadel, number one. He's now actually conveniently stopped giving Ron money.
Yep.
But when it first started, they went all in on the super PAC. And I know the guys running that super PAC. They were always never Trumpers and Trump haters and flipped the wagon as soon as it became convenient for them. And they were the ones out there in the media saying, we are going to be the ones that save the Republican Party from Donald Trump. And I remember everybody excoriating Trump for being like, you can't make fun of Ron. You can't call him DeSanctimonious.
Which is not the best nickname, I will say.
I mean, but here's the effect, right? Whether it was the best nickname or not, Trump's strategy was to kneecap him before that guy ever got out of the gate. Yeah. And everybody in the political arena was saying, this is not going to work. And Ron literally puts less people in a room than I do if I send out one Truth Social post.
It sounds like they said if Trump gets DeSantis on the ticket, we can't beat him. There's nobody who can run against him. Nobody. And so they were like, let's go to DeSantis and offer him tons of money and tell him he's the guy and it's his path. Convince him, and then once he betrays Trump, that's it, we're done. And then they walk away and they stop giving him money.
Isn't he like number 5 now already? Like on the what do you call it? The GOP stakes? He's not even like the second guy?
I think he's number 3 in the prediction market. Okay. But you mentioned this, the donors have stopped giving him money.
They pulled out.
And that was a while ago. And then he had that mass layoff. Like, they barely gave him any money at all. It's kind of crazy.
But don't worry, when he debates Gavin Newsom, who by the way will probably clobber him. I don't like Gavin Newsom, but he's charismatic, he's smart, and he knows how to speak and debate. And that's going to be, that'll be the one debate I watch. Yeah. I won't watch any of the GOP ones, but I'll watch that one.
Look at this. Nikki Haley is in second place in the prediction market. I never would have saw that coming. I got to be honest.
She was doing well in New Hampshire last I checked.
That's interesting.
It's also hard for Ron to push back against Trump when it comes to like the social media presence, because he is supposed to be this traditional politician that was more of a quiet mind, quiet face. Like, so it's a lot harder in the social media age when everything's a meme to push back when people are saying that you're wearing high heels. How does somebody use dignity to get their way out of that, right? So you said that the people that work for him then say to Ashley Sinclair, oh, you're being rude for doing something like this, when that's not going to work, not in the social media age.
I mean, you'd hope that he'd lean into the fact that he's young and be like, you crazy kids on social media with your jokes and your ideas. But instead it was
TikTok?
just this crazy serious thing. I mean, like, he could have gone boot shopping on TikTok or on Reels or whatever, and it might have been better, but it really feels to me like the undercurrent of what's around him is looking for a fight and they're feeling insecure. And again, I actually feel like, I always say that I don't want to short the bench, right? Like, if Trump is elected, he'll be a one-term president, and he could do incredible things, but we have to keep the momentum going. There has to be people after him. And so whether it's Ron DeSantis or not, we don't need it to be this crazy infighting led by people who are feeling insecure about their campaign.
Funny too, because didn't like Logan Paul did the thing with Vivek, and it became his biggest social media platform to push his campaign ideas. Like Ron probably would have been better off figuring out a way to actually lean into the social media aspect of it.
And
better.
Like this
more
picture right
disarming.
here.
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's more,
I don't know, but like, doesn't it? You look at his boots and they're on the ground,
That's it.
but it does look like he's on his tippy toes.
It's just
It's just
more
weird.
disarming to people to laugh with them, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reality.
But doesn't that break his image, right? His image is supposed to be the person who institutes policy and then doesn't feel the need to have to clap back. That's what they liked about him, right?
Sure,
they liked
but-
the fact that he was not the reactionary of Trump,
But he did
needs
end
to
up
be.
clapping back, and he could have been the guy that is like, "Oh, I'm so dignified, haha, I'll laugh with you."
No, but you're right. You know, you raise a good point. Like, he could have just waited it out a hot second, been on a meteoric rise, and would have been the dude, you know, come 2028, whatever that math is. Instead, not only is he not the dude now, he's never going to be the dude in this generation. Like, he's 45, so maybe at 65, he could make a play like Trump did, maybe in his 70s. But right now, he's gone. This Republican Party is completely different. The people in the state of Florida have to, everybody's like, oh, Ron DeSantis is doing a great job in the state of Florida. He is.
Yeah.
But do you know the vote structure in the state of Florida? In 2022, Ron DeSantis got 4 million votes in the state of Florida. In 2022, Donald J. Trump got 5.1 million votes in the state of Florida.
In 2022 or 2020?
2020, excuse me.
Right.
So when the year they were both on the ticket, that's the spread in the state of Florida.
He was also losing a lot of the America First people, right? Because they were like, look, neocon. Like they immediately smelled neocon on him anyways.
Well, the
and
donors,
Had, and had a lot of questions about it. So he would have had a lot of ground to make up there anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that, and I remember saying this at this time a year ago, that there were things that I thought DeSantis could bring to, let's say, a debate stage and talk about really interestingly. I mean, Florida is unique in the sense that it deals with a lot of illegal immigration that's unique to that region, right? They have a lot of immigration from Cuba. They have a lot of immigration from. Oh,
Sorry.
you good, homie?
Sorry. Ron DeSantis just his team just sent me a message for a donor event in Las Vegas where I live. I was like, do you guys even know who you're sending this stuff to anymore? Like,
Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go?
Maybe, why not? Maybe I'll go in there and walk into
Ask
Treasure
him
Island.
about his boots.
I can ask him about his boots. The funny thing is, it's in Treasure Island, which is Phil Ruffin's place, who's Donald Trump's best friend. I find this all hilarious.
Be like
So-
3-inch lifts or 4-inch lifts.
Just take a picture next time because we were
I
trying
should,
to figure out
get
the
down
height.
there.
And look, and I was personally offended as somebody who's short. I wanted him to win the short vote.
You wanted representation.
I wanted representation.
short
I
guy,
wanted
yeah.
him to win the short vote.
Let's jump to this story from FoxNews.com, and maybe we'll give Ron DeSantis a little bit of praise here after we just ragged on him. DeSantis administration directs Florida universities to terminate student chapters that support Hamas terrorism. Now, the first thing I thought when I saw this was this is a misplay. This is Ron going too far in the culture war, targeting free speech from students. I don't like that they support this stuff, but we want these far leftists to go out and talk about how they support Hamas. And then you actually read it. Ron DeSantis is correct in this regard. These individuals are not just speaking. Let me read this. The letter states the student group present at least 2 universities in Florida, known as the National Students for Justice in Palestine, published a toolkit that refers to the Hamas operation as the resistance and says that Palestinian students in exile are part of this movement, not in solidarity with the movement. Quite literally, I believe that's a violation of federal law in providing material support to terrorist organizations. So in this capacity, it goes well beyond just speech. And it's difficult. I always try to be careful, and I would personally require a lot of evidence and adjudication on this. I don't want a governor or a president to be able to come out and be like, nope, you said you support terrorists, so we're shutting you down. Like, no. We'll bring it to court. You shouldn't be able to just do this. They should have filed something that they should have to respond to. There should be a due process here. The letter explains that it's a felony under Florida law to knowingly provide material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization. These chapters exist under the leadership of the National Students for Justice in Palestine, who distributed a toolkit identifying themselves as part of the Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. Based on the National JP's support of terrorism, In consultation with Governor DeSantis, the student chapter must be deactivated. These 2 student chapters may form another organization that complies with Florida state statutes and university policies. The 2 institutions should grant these 2 chapters a waiver for the fall deadlines should reapplication take place. Now, my question here is, if they genuinely believe these individuals are supporting terrorism, why would they be like, just refile? Wouldn't they be like, we are going to arrest and charge you for this?
Well, what people always forget now, especially, is that Hamas is a designated foreign terrorist organization. That has been the case for decades in Republican and Democratic administrations. So that's leg one of this whole statute about, I used to prosecute guys for providing material support to terrorism. It can be arms, it can be money, it can be planning, it can be whatever, right? Conspiring with them to do bad stuff. So you have that piece of the puzzle. Are they a designated foreign terrorist organization? But here's the thing. That's not Florida law. It's federal law, right? So anything in Florida that speaks to that is superseded by federal law and material support statutes. So you're right. I agree that if they're providing money to a foreign terrorist organization, it's material support.
What if they claim to be and are providing labor?
Well, then you have to go to court and prove that you're providing labor that is not attributed to terrorist activity, right? I'm saving babies in, wherever and providing food to the homeless or something like that. So we get into this problem when we have all these humanitarian refugee camps, right? Like across Syria, and all of these donors want to give money, and you're like, well, we're giving it to all these people and known foreign terrorists who are in the camps that run the camp. How are we going to, what are we going to do with that? Yeah. That's been an ongoing issue for a long time.
What do you think of Tom Cotton? He wrote that letter to Mayorkas saying we need to expel foreign nationals who violate federal law by espousing support for Hamas because you're barred from espousing.
It's the law. Like, this DOJ won't actually do it because it's the DOJ along with the State Department has to get together to make that, ejection possible. But what he's saying, I think you have to break it down a little further than just expel everyone. If you are affiliated with a known foreign terrorist organization, Hamas, in America, and you are supporting them, in the very least, you should be kicked out of the country and more likely prosecuted. What normally happens is you get prosecuted, then you get stripped of your citizenship or residency status, then you get the boot.
Do you think any of this is likely to happen, though?
No, not in this administration.
That's what I find to be the craziest thing. There's going to be all of this fury, and the progressives themselves are divided over the issue, but nothing will happen from the Biden administration.
Not in this one.
And stuff like this is going to become more common in the internet age as these people are able to coordinate more freely, I assume.
Well, look, so the difference between Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the main difference, right? Al-Qaeda, they brought yourself and your team to wherever mountain region they were to train you up, kit you out, and send you back out to do your thing. ISIS just did it online. That was their deal. Wow. That was their whole recruitment platform. You don't need to come to, Afghanistan or Pakistan. Click here and donate. Click here and learn how to fire an AK-47. And then eventually maybe you'll come down range and go to one of our camps. So that's already happening. And our problem has been, it's a free speech thing. What if these guys are in these chat groups or in these, pro-ISIS organization chapters and they're saying, well, I just support what they say. I don't support what they do. It's hard to prosecute that. It's hard to make that call.
And it's hard, I think, for a lot of the free speech Americans who do believe in that, especially because a lot of them were younger, right? Yeah. A lot of those ISIS, those kids who got involved with ISIS was in Minneapolis, or whatever. They were barely out of their teens.
Well, I mean,
right?
One of the arguments I hear all the time is that, especially with the first generation Americans whose parents are, of one culture and you're kind of torn between the two, they look for identity online and become radicalized, and so that's a very difficult and sad story to peddle. On the other hand, ultimately, if the conclusion is radicalization, you have to treat that really seriously.
Yeah, it's not fun. I waded through a lot of those cases. But people always forget. We focus on designated foreign terrorist organizations, right? Because that's the federal law material hook for material support. And it's not like we're just going after the KKK, right? Obviously, I hate those guys, but most of what they say is protected free speech. Their right to even organize and convene together is protected on their Constitution. That's the way it should be, right? But there's a separation between what the KKK does and what ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Hamas and all these other Hezbollah, all these organizations do. You're talking about people who have done so much destruction to American and American allies that the U.S. government was like, you're on the list for life. Yeah. That's it. There's almost no getting off of it.
Yeah. I wonder what you think of the organizations that are saying, they won't hire these students from Harvard. I think Larry Hogan just did that.
Yeah.
Because some people say you shouldn't cancel them. You shouldn't talk. Like, there is an argument that that's not fair. On the other hand, like, if you're hiring someone and they advocate for, terrorist organizations that we have recognized since 1997, that's pretty serious.
Well, first of all these institutions are private. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can hire whoever they want. They can come out and say, we don't want Harvard guys who had done X, Y, or Z. They could have done that.
So is it
going
different
back.
when Larry Hogan says he won't hire from Harvard?
Well, if he's saying that, he's not governor anymore, so I don't know where he's hiring these people. But if he's hiring them for government jobs somewhere, then that's going to be an issue. But if even if say J.P. Morgan, right, the world's largest bank, is like, yeah, we're not taking anybody from Harvard because of this nonsense. Okay, what are they going to do? It's totally within their right to say that.
Yeah.
We're going to hire murderers.
Do you think it will change how academia?
No, those guys are too far
I mean, that's
gone.
what I always think, that they're sort of lost institutions. So it's
Yeah,
not gonna
but
make
a lot of
difference.
these students started writing letters being like, no, we're so sorry, we didn't know. And then you got people coming up being like, these students really didn't know it was in the letter. We should be nice to them. A lot of these students are marching. They've not changed their minds.
These students go to Harvard. They're not stupid. They can read.
They are.
Harvard.
That would be right. That would be their knee-jerk argument. I went
Isn't
to an
that
Ivy
a-
League school. I'm a brilliant
Isn't
person.
that a worse indictment that you go to Harvard but you didn't read this thing you were signing? Like that might be. It's like I'm not hiring you because you said you support Hamas. I'm not hiring you because
It's not that.
you
It's that you didn't read the basic
damn
agreement.
paper, right?
Oh, man.
Like how
Or
how
you're
could-
lying that you did read it, and now you're trying to be like, oh, no, I misunderstood.
Either way, all of those are very bad.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
It's just going to get worse. I think it's all connected. Like those institutions, like Harvard, whatever, any Ivy League school, is connected to this entire pipeline movement that we've been talking about. When these people flip, when these people write books, when they go on TV, when who's the person that got kicked out of somewhere and is now like the professor at Princeton or Yale. This just happened this week. I'll think of it. Anyway, you get rewarded.
Yeah.
They're part of the reward system.
Yeah.
We're going to make you president of this institute. We're going to give you a huge contract.
What's funny about this, there's a voice actress named Tara Strong, and she's the voice of like Timmy Turner and Batgirl, Harley Quinn. So a lot of people who are familiar with like DC Comics and cartoons have heard her voice. She was on Drawn Together on Comedy Central. She got fired from a show because she was tweeting in support of Israel. So the show abruptly tweeted out that she would no longer be voicing one of their characters, and then she starts losing it. Like I'm finding out from the internet I'm being fired for being Jewish, things like this. But what I find fascinating about many of these people, Tara Strong has me blocked, right? Because she's one of these woke leftists, and despite the fact that we always calmly and rationally tried to explain to them that the BLM and the far left want the eradication of Israel, they plug their ears and say you're far right, blah blah blah. And then the reckoning comes for them. As we've been warning about for so long, these people who think that they can keep their head down and just side with the left will be left alone. That's not true. She gets fired because of this. Well,
Unless you have no opinions whatsoever. Like literally you would have to have no opinions whatsoever because eventually
No, but then they ask you,
something
you're staying quiet on
yeah.
this issue. You're staying quiet on this issue. Why do you comment on it?
that's what happened to Vivek Ramaswamy.
Exactly.
So
They kept demanding he keeps speaking up, and he was like, I did. And they're like, more. And he's like, I've had it.
This has been like the number because we've just been talking a lot because every one of all these celebrities have something to say about what's going on right now. I'm like, you're not involved in this. Like, you don't need to have an opinion on this stuff. It doesn't benefit.
It's all of their publicists that have
Yeah.
something to say, who are saying you really, really need to tweet about this.
It's shocking.
Let me pull up this story from RollingStone.com.
oh boy.
Hollywood stars, musicians call for release of Hamas hostages in letter to President Biden. Yeah. You know what the letter's basically saying? It's saying Joe Biden declare war on Iran. Okay, but let's read. They say scores of Hollywood actors, musicians, comedians, and other entertainment figures signed an open letter to President Biden on Monday calling for the release of all hostages Hamas has taken. Among the hundreds of signatories were Amy Schumer, Jerry Seinfeld, Justin Timberlake, Madonna, Katy Perry, Bradley Cooper. The letter is part of a campaign called No Hostage Left Behind, which seeks the release of more than 200 hostages taken during the Hamas attack on Israel. Now, my question is, what is the ask? Hamas has hostages, so you wrote a letter to Joe Biden. It's simple. They're saying, go to war and do whatever you have to do.
The anti-war party is saying go to war and do whatever you have to do. Having run counterterrorism for President Trump and the hostage portfolios and bringing home 54 guys, we kind of know how to do it. And this Americans have been taken. Joe Biden has brought home none of them. The Qatari government has brought home 4 Americans.
Wow.
4. And this warmongering machine, the liberals are saying, yeah, let's do another Afghanistan.
Hollywood hasn't been anti-war in a long time. They've been anti-American for a long time, and pro-Islam during Iraq and Afghanistan. Lots of movies bear that out, but they're not anti-war, not in any sense of the word. And right now, I think it's worse than that for a lot of this. I don't even know if it's so much that they think that far ahead. I think that they just know that these are issues that they need to have an opinion on because their public persona requires them to be seen and heard talking about things that matter.
It's a way to stay relevant,
exactly.
Right? They have to
Which
be
is
commenting
worse
on it.
somehow.
It's ridiculous. I mean, if you actually
so
cared
cynical.
about anything like this, would you make it so like I need to post this tweet so people engage with it so they see that I'm empathetic. I mean, it's really ultimately narcissistic and about themselves. I wonder though if Hollywood how much of Hollywood acknowledges that they're not anti-war anymore. It's the same thing with the Democratic Party being like, we're countercultural. And you're like, no, you're not. No. You are the mainstream force and you market this all the time and yet you claim that you're sort of this weird underdog when you're obviously not.
Their brains don't process that at all. They still believe that they're the counterculture. They still believe that they're the party of anti-war. They also believe that they're the party of the little guy rather than the party of big banks and big money. But for a lot of it, like I've watched every one of these celebrities have the most artfully written response that's supposed to appease both sides, only to watch them one by one get taken out instantly because they don't realize. I think a lot of it is not being fully in touch with your audience. It's like they don't realize the size of their platforms and just how actually diverse the amount of people. Yeah, you're going to get soccer moms who like your stuff, but you're also going to get young leftists. They don't realize that no matter what you say, it's not enough. It will never be enough because the most vocal of either side will come at you no matter how neutral you remain. The best thing you could do is not say anything, but they are too addicted to the attention and they need the rub.
And they're self-important. Right? They think the world needs their opinion, which is challenging. I mean, it's similar to a lot of politicians who weigh on issues that they're actually probably not that well versed in, but they're saying, if I don't get the right buzz out, then no one will pay attention to me again. It's desperate. Yep. I mean, you were talking about this before. They ultimately all want the attention. And that's why I think people fight so hard to stay in office, right? I mean, the fact that Dianne Feinstein stayed in office until she was actually dead is crazy. I mean, that is not wanting to give up power.
Well, it's power and relevancy.
Wasn't
That's
her
all
net
it is.
worth like $100-some million?
No, it was like $1 billion.
It's like
because she married some crazy wealthy guy.
And they were like private jet and.
I mean, she married a crazy wealthy guy. The other thing is so in the weeks leading up to her death, she had to sign over power of attorney to her daughter because there's all kinds of legal disputes over the estate. And they said, she was really sick this past year. She had shingles and some complications from that. And so she needs the money for her medical bills. I mean, it's such a strange thing where we're having someone who can't fight their own legal battles but can still be brought to and from. Nancy Pelosi's daughter was pushing her wheelchair around Congress, but she didn't need to retire. No worries, she's going to stay
Our
on.
country's sick.
That's disgusting. This is the thing. Like, when Josie, the redheaded libertarian, was here, she was saying she would want Ron Paul to be Speaker of the House, and I love Ron Paul. I think he's great, but he is elderly. Let him just rest and hang out with his kids and write interesting books, but do not make him do this dumb bureaucratic job in Washington until he dies. This is not the culture I want.
And they're the ideological children of Ron Paul that are available.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dave Smith exists.
Yeah.
We like Dave Smith. Make him Speaker of the House.
And then we are, again, expanding this bench of people who can potentially lead the country in the right direction. Let's just not make Ron Paul work until the end of time.
And meanwhile, Mitch McConnell needs to be rebooted every 15 minutes when he's giving a speech.
Again, maybe should the fact that Mitt Romney is the first person to be like, I'll be in my 80s, I should step down. It's like the first sensible thing I've ever heard from him in my life.
No, I'm going to throw a Game of Thrones reference out there. This is the circle. This is the wheel that continuously spins, and Donald Trump was the force that broke the wheel.
Yeah.
He broke it for a while and robbed all the people of the Rolling Stone headlines, robbed these people of these important jobs and TV interviews and positions, exploited them for the corrupt actors that they are. I mean, the insiders trading alone between Pelosi and Feinstein should be enough to send them to prison for an eternity.
Got to get that Pelosi tracker.
No, it's called Unusual Whales or something like that.
I was going to say earlier, like I follow
all
my stock
if you want to invest in stocks, just look at Unusual Whales because they are literally citing the upcoming legislation that these guys are betting their gambles on, and they track it all. And you can go probably like 5 to 7% return on there.
You're right.
But they figured this out, and now it'll probably spread where they'll be like, oh, most Americans have figured it out, so we're going to make this illegal.
But they still want to make money, right? So they're still going to keep doing it. That's why. That's why I make
they're never going to.
Congress does.
They're never going to write themselves into a law that says, oh well, we can't.
Of course not. Of course not.
Matt Gaetz and AOC teamed up trying to stop them from doing it.
The younger generation is saying like, hey, wait, maybe this isn't great.
It's like telling them to introduce term limits.
But I think I'm optimistic.
So needed.
I'm optimistic because if you look at Matt Gaetz, the reason he's able to do what he does is because his donors are individuals on the internet. That he's got small donors.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to go to one man for $1 million. He can go to 1 million men for $1 and women.
No, so look, whatever you think about Matt, and I've known Matt a long time, about whether he's right to start this process or wrong to start
he was
this process. No, I'm just saying, whatever your position is, I agree. But I'm saying he was the only one that I know of that could go to the well of the floor in the House of the Representatives and announce to the world that I have not accepted $1 from one lobbyist or one defense industrial complex organization. Mind you, Matt has one of the biggest Air Force bases we have in his home district.
Wow.
So for him to go out and say that, and then the chorus of boos comes in, and his response to me was perfect. Every single one of those people booing took a 6 and 7 figure paycheck to their super PACs, maxed out donations, parties in DC, had them on their jets and their planes, and they were caught red-handed with what Donald Trump had caught them with, being the biggest hypocrites who are in charge of running our democracy. And I think he's excoriated for it now, because we're in this position where we'll probably just have Tim Pool become speaker, but we'll get to that. We're in this position where, they're like, it's a rudderless government. I was like, how well was it steered when McCarthy was?
It wasn't great.
What do you?
Fair.
You were on the you kicked the debt ceiling. You were going to give us another CR. These oversight investigations that were supposed to promise the end of time were being run by wet noodles, and you weren't empowering them to enforce their subpoenas. And now we have an exposure. I think it's a big civics education. You have people paying attention. Of course, the left's going to come in and be like, the Republicans are ruining governor. But hey, right now, they can't pass a CR or an omnibus because there's no speaker of the House.
They can't fund war either.
They can't fund a war. They can't write a check to the Ukraine.
I'm seeing a lot of these conservatives on Twitter be like, what did we really gain from Matt Gaetz' stunt? And like, why did he do this? And I'm just sitting back like, all the libertarians are laughing because now there's stagnation. And there's no more wasteful spending because they can't.
They can't write a check.
It's not what we gained; it's what Zelensky lost.
Right. Dude, have you even heard of that guy?
No, and he is so mad about it.
He's begging.
So he's not happy being the side piece.
No. I remember after all the stuff, like after the October 7th stuff happened in Israel, he was like putting out statements like, "Yes, we too have suffered. Don't forget that we in Ukraine, we need some money here."
It's that friend who, like, every time something bad happens to you, is like, "Yeah, something worse happened to me."
Yeah.
You know what would be a good way to get Ukraine? And I'm not saying there's people over there that don't need help, and obviously Russia's attacking a lot of zones. But when you go on the interwebs and you type in like Kiev nightclub, it's like Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. Have you seen these freaking parties? Like my friends have gone over there to do a bunch of work over there, and they're like, what war zone? Like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. You can't have that going on and ask the world for $500 billion.
It is funny because I have like friends that skate in both Russia and Ukraine, and if
you're a hockey guy?
No, it's hockey too, but it's skating is like aggressive skating. But like if you were going by their social media posts, like their story posts, it's like the ones who are in Ukraine are posting about fundraising for their fundraising for the military, but then you see their posts and they're just out skating at the skate park, and I'm like, how is that happening now?
No. This is something people don't get. I talk about a bit. People don't understand that countries in war are not every place in this country is at
total
war
for them.
No, but I this is a story everyone's heard me say ad nauseum. In Egypt during the Second Revolution, 2 blocks away from Tahrir Square, where the revolution is taking place, there's a guy at a McDonald's watching a soccer match. Yeah. And there was a casino in the Hilton Hotel. You were not allowed to enter if you were an Egyptian citizen because it's what's the word? Is haram the right word? Like it's a violation.
Forbidden,
forbidden,
unclean.
But tourists were gambling in there, playing roulette, craps, blackjack.
Yeah, of course.
2 blocks away from a revolution where Apache helicopters are flying over and there's APCs. People are shooting at each other in the streets. and blocks away, nobody cares.
And these things become normalized, right? I mean, think about the protests in Paris this year. There were so many videos of like these people having dinner at like whatever cute little cafe, and meanwhile something's on fire and someone's throwing something through a window. Like if you've been in conflict for a year, at a certain point, Zelensky's not going to keep you from the bars.
What was the video of like the girl doing like a TikTok dance while a military coup is going on behind her?
That's on Myanmar. That's actually to bring in Burma. Yeah,
there you go. She
was actually a yoga. It was like a yoga thing or something like that. It's even better.
You know her? You call her, Serge?
No. It's just like it was great because
that's very current year.
Yeah,
it is.
No, but it is. Yeah. I mean, especially I know Tim is feeling impassioned about this subject. If that conflict has been going on for actual decades,
you just got to keep going.
You just live with it.
Yeah, eventually.
All right, I'm gonna let's shatter some hearts.
Oh, you're gonna do it.
Here we go from the New York Post. UFC partners with Bud Light as embattled beer tries to fight off Dylan Mulvaney backlash.
I don't understand this.
Bud Light must be
I'll
paying
break it
them
down.
so much money.
I'll break it down very simply. Bud Light, they're having a meeting being like, okay, everybody's calling us names and saying we're weak and effeminate and gay and whatever. We need to sponsor the manliest thing imaginable. How about MMA? They go to UFC. I bet the first phone call they had with UFC's like, are you joking? And wait, don't hang up. We'll give you $100 million. And they're like,
That's not a lot of money to UFC, though.
I mean,
okay,
that's
then
the
500.
starting bid.
Yeah.
The starting bid.
I mean, you're right. I'd like to see what the price tag
Endeavor,
was.
it's like UFC's owned by Endeavor, right? So Endeavor is this massive conglomerate that just bought WWE as well. Right. So they own both of these companies.
Yeah.
It's all Ari Emanuel. It's $100 million wouldn't even move the needle for them.
And I just want to say, I know we were critiquing people for not standing by their values at the top of the show. I thought we were trying to get rid of the fratty culture around Bud Light. You know what I mean?
Let me read this. Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light were UFC's original beer sponsors more than 15 years ago. I'm proud to announce we are back in business together, Dana White said in a statement. There are many reasons why I chose to go with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. Most importantly, because I feel we are very aligned when it comes to our core values and what the UFC brand stands for. I'm looking forward to all of the incredible things we will do in the years ahead. What he's really saying is, bro, the paycheck was huge.
You would not believe all the zeros.
Dylan Mulvaney versus Fallon Fox will go on this year.
The values they share are the amount of zeros on the back of the check.
Yes, so many zeros. You cannot
The
believe
values he's referring to are monetary values.
Monetary values, right?
I don't know.
This is a good picture too, where he's just like, "Look, guys, I just had to say."
If they had to make a longer check, there were so many zeros.
Also,
it's fine.
I mean, Bud Light's going to do whatever Dana White asks now, right?
Is Dylan Mulvaney going to be the card girl or whatever?
No, there's no way that they repartner with Dylan Mulvaney.
This is what did Bud Light try to sponsor? Harley Davidson. It didn't work.
Yeah,
no, nothing worked.
Do they really think? I got to be honest. I'm willing to bet there's a lot of MMA guys who are going to be like, F no.
Pissed.
Yeah.
Pissed.
They're going to be. Here's what I imagine. You're going to hear like press conferences with some fighters, and they're going to rag on Bud Light. It's gonna be worse for Bud Light by trying to do this. For whatever reason, MMA guys tend to be particularly based, as it were, or red-pilled.
And vocal.
It's all that testosterone and working out.
Have you seen the entrance that Donald Trump made at the last UFC fight in Las Vegas? Dana White and Mark Wahlberg both said they've never heard anything like that. Do you think Donald Trump is going to walk back down hand in hand with Dana White holding a freaking Bud Light? Like, you're right. Those fighters, I know a lot of them. I live in Vegas. My buddy has one of the most successful MMA training centers and owns like half the fighters in the UFC. These guys are not going to tolerate this, and they have massive social media following.
But it's not just about even personal conviction. If you're someone with a big presence and they're telling you to stand in front of a Bud Light, marquee or whatever, you're going to be like, no, I'm going to get roasted. Are you nuts?
But then they're going to say, oh, you're under contract, so you got to do it. It's going to get weird.
Yeah, but MMA dudes are not the kind of guys to be like, no, a contract. They're the kind of guys going to be like, I'll rip it up in front of your face.
Yeah, they don't care.
There's no second UFC. Like, they can't be like, I'm switching leagues and I'm going over here, right?
It's all owned by the one thing. There's the UFC, there's the PFL. They're all owned by the one.
But look, there you look at all these industries. We're talking earlier about like Jenna Ellis pleading guilty, and they're all caving and bending the knee. UFC, not even just MMA in general, has a very high density of individuals who will tell you to shove it.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of obvious, like, these are guys who work really, really hard. They're top-level athletes, but they're also very, very capable people who are not worried about what you think you can take from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm wondering How many MMA fighters go, I don't really care about that? You'll probably get some.
What's like the big UFC chat space? I would love to see what they're posting already. Some of these top fighters. Like if you look at the top like 10 fighters to see if any one of those guys have put something out on Dylan. I can't believe this is a headline.
What would their contracts look like though? Like if it wasn't Bud Light, if it was a Monster or whatever, like are they not allowed to disparage the brand? Like what does it look like?
There's usually disparagement clauses, or like you have to like wear the shorts. Like are these guys gonna walk in with Bud Light on the floor of the octagon?
No.
Well, it's a big sponsorship.
Yeah.
Also, it's going to be such terrible optics. Like these guys grappling on the ground over Bud Light. Like, I don't like it. That's gross.
I mean, just picture these optics. Like, you have just taken a monster defecation on Bud Light for the last year.
There is also there's a large proponent of that industry that's going to be very normie that isn't going to know what's going on with the
you
content.
think
I think that's what they're betting.
Yes.
I think they're trying to see if
that
this
there's
is
plenty of normie. Like, I think that we fall into a little bit of of tunnel vision here.
I will say the Bud Light and the Target back-to-back boycotts were so big. I mean, I know non-political people who are really mad about this, and so they are gambling that. Yeah, both of them.
Okay.
But the thing is, they're gambling that these issues from earlier in the year have been memory hold, and I just don't think that's the case. I think especially with the people in this particular industry, they remember, they oppose it. I mean,
no, and the UFC world writ large. I mean, you're right. I think in any other sports it would be diluted, but the UFC world. I mean, you got to pull up the video of Trump. All of those people went ape.
There's $100 million.
Stuff.
It was 100
No
million?
way. That's
I'm pretty sure. I mean, well,
did you
I'm looking at tweets and
they're all in on it.
There was
people are tweeting $100 million.
maybe the most hilariously dystopian thing I saw this year was watching like during the playoffs for baseball. There's like a giant Lockheed Martin sign behind in center field during the Astros. It was just
okay.
$100 million.
And how much stock does Dana White personally own in Bud Light? Like, if it goes back up, what does he get out of it?
My understanding is that if he bought stock in Anheuser-Busch before this deal, that's insider trading.
But what if they gave it to him as part of the deal?
Right.
You know what I mean? So now
well, actually, no, not him individually. So if it's a $100 million deal, if they cut him in on the side, I think that's also insider trading.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because like if that does seem low, $100 million, so I have to assume that he is personally profiting in some way.
Like I buy that the people that are there live at the event would be that way.
And they ditched Modelo.
Yeah,
they did.
We like Modelo.
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
That's crazy.
We were like
it's the biggest sponsorship in UFC history.
Target's the next one, guys.
I tell you, like he said, we share a lot of values, and that value is monetary.
Yeah, true. I mean, Bellator's probably excited about this. They're definitely going to get some fighters going to be like, screw this, I'm going to go to Bellator.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. So
that's the thing. If they have an alternative, you're potentially losing good fighters to that. It just depends on how. Like that's why I want to know about the contracts. If they can't get out of it, they have to. Support
They're all
anyways.
owned by the same. Bellator, UFC, and PFL are all the same.
But if they're not going to have to wear like the jerseys or the shorts if they change, you know what I mean? Yeah. Even if it's ultimately owned.
Well, who's going to be the first guy to wear Bud Light fighting?
Bud Light shorts.
They're going to get memed to high hell. I can tell you that. But I really, like you said, it's the same owner. They're just going to go. They're just going to go to the other bouts. Why would they stick around? If they're the only one sponsoring Bud Light, and let's say Bellator isn't, then why wouldn't they just go fight Bellator?
Yeah.
Maybe the cat. I guess
the money's different. The pot's
smaller,
different. Yeah. The cut is way less.
But would it change if more people were in the league?
Yeah, that's what I mean. What if all the viewers are like, I'm not going to watch UFC anymore because of this?
Yeah, forget this Trump fraud stuff. Tell us about this, guys.
You'd have to you'd have to get all the tier 1 fighters out of the UFC, dump them down into PFL and Bellator, where most of the amateur fights are, and you'd have to reorient I mean, Dana White owns it. So, well, he doesn't. They own it, but Dana runs it. They're not going to change what a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, maybe if this Bud Light thing backfires, but
$100 million just seems small. I don't know why, but it seems small to me for that type of investment. Right?
So maybe they really do share values, and that's terrifying, right? What values are we getting from Bud Light right now?
Man, Timcast could have sponsored them for that kind of money.
Yeah, no way.
You don't want to have your face on all of the UFC's jerseys and stuff.
Yeah, if I had $100 million, jeez, know anybody?
No, I mean
Bud Light. If Bud Light came to me and offered me $100 million, I would say no. This is what I was talking about earlier with like these corrupt people in Congress that make all this money. I'm like, I don't understand it. I mean, at a certain point, like, maybe it's just like a leftist worldview. I don't know.
At what point does Bud Light try to get on public square? That's what I really want. Bud Light is like, please, Michael.
In 5 years, when public square is bigger than Amazon, and anyone who's not on that platform is struggling to get sales because they're considered fringe and weird, Bud Light then apologizes and pledges to support American values and family values. And
but you could never trust them.
Ad,
you could never trust them to do any of that.
Tucker just put in $1 million on Public Square.
Public Square put $1 million on Tucker.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
It's a smart move.
A brilliant move. Tucker's got a massive show with a massive presence, and now Public Square gets the sole sponsorship for $1 million. It's a good deal.
For them, it's a great deal.
I mean, Public Square is the most important culture war business and application right now. You download an app that shows you the businesses that agree with your values. That's it.
Yeah.
No question.
It's incredible. And it's so amazing that Michael saw the need and filled it. I mean, that's what I wish more people would.
They've had a rough ride though. They came in high and it's pretty down right now in the stock world.
Do you think they're recovering?
Yeah, they came in at like 30. They're at like 5 now.
Public Square is? Well, that's normal though. Like
that's a big drop from an IPO inside of a year.
Yeah, but Facebook went from like what 45 to like 9.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
happens.
why everyone's always like, be careful when buying at an IPO because it always drops off. They sell it, they dump a whole bunch and it falls down. Yep. Yeah, but it is what it is. My concern is how are we winning the culture war and what are we doing? And we had Carl Benjamin on the show and he was like, the right's not organized, we're not doing anything. And then I'm like, Public Square does this, and his eyebrows go up and he's like, oh, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah,
and right.
There are companies out there. They're just it's hard to break through. There's a lot of companies that see the world that way. There's cell phone companies, there's coffee companies, there's payment processing companies. All these people do it. It's a beast to get.
Someone already super chatted saying they canceled their UFC Fight Pass subscription.
Oof.
It is also
That's
hard.
Let's keep the tally going.
A lot of these companies, like if a larger company then offers you a ton of money,
Jeremy's Fighting Championships.
JFC.
So look, JFC. I'm gonna text Jeremy Boring right now and be like, bro, can you launch an MMA?
His brand is crazier and crazier, and they all have the chocolate bars with them.
Like, I'm imagining like his assistant runs into his office right now, and they're like, Mr. Boring, and they hold up the paper, and he's like,
wait, so right. Does this work or does this not work?
He's like, who here's in the best shape? We need to film an ad right now.
Yeah.
What do you think? Does this take for UFC? Does this work or does this?
Oh
not work?
no, I think they're going
to eat it.
Well, look, no matter what happens, there is going to be controversy. The fact that we're even talking about it and people are saying they're canceling because of it, there's already controversy. It may not be that big of a deal because the average person who watches MMA or whatever might just be like, dude, I don't care about that stuff. No. I want to watch the champion fight, the champ fight the contender or whatever. And so we'll see. But I kind of think a lot of UFC guys are very vocal. Politically, they don't care. Like they believe what they believe and they are not weak people.
Yeah.
Like it is a high density of individuals that are in MMA that are just like, I will say what I believe, screw you.
I don't think it'll be the boycott that we saw with Bud Light itself because Bud Light, you can pick alternatives, right? If there's really no alternative UFC, there are people who are like, look, I like this. I work hard. I want to watch the fights. Like, I'm not going to buy Bud Light. Are they going to have
other beers there?
I don't know.
When this was going down, I went to, I spent a lot of time in Nashville and I'm a big country music fan. And I went to a Luke Combs concert out in Titan Stadium, 55,000 people. And they were still under contract with Bud Light, whoever was putting on that show. When I left the arena, when I walked in, I couldn't find one person holding a can of Bud Light. They were drinking everything else that they could get their hands on. When I left the arena, there were truckloads of Bud Light stations around the arena that had not sold more than 3% of their beers. I mean, they were just stacked to the ceiling. So if they did that in country music in Nashville, it's not a far stretch that they don't buy their stuff here. Now, I guess it doesn't matter.
But more time has passed now.
What happens if a fighter comes out and right when he comes out, he goes, don't buy Bud Light?
Somebody's going to say that.
I know.
Some dude is getting up and saying that.
And Bud Light's going to be like, wow, this made things worse.
Actually,
it made it worse.
There's a massive fight in Madison Square Garden in 2 weeks. UFC's going there. And supposedly there's going to be some appearances from some celebrities.
Like Dylan Mulvaney?
Oh, interesting.
So we'll see how we're going to know how this shakes out. I'm telling you, in 2 weeks.
It's just, Bud Light has had a marketing catastrophe since this started, and they've never figured out what to do about it because they could have just apologized.
Yeah, we got it wrong. See you later.
Sorry, guys. This was a young marketing millennial. We apologize. We're not going to do it again. Instead, they've been trying
quadruple down.
Oh, they've been sponsoring Pride events.
But then all of what was this? The gay bars in Chicago were like, we're not buying that beer. You're not supporting Dylan Mulvaney enough.
They got double out.
That's right.
And all of the leftists who weren't buying it anyways are just going to not buy it anyways because they weren't buying it in the first place.
It was a dumb move. And like I said, their marketing executive set that thing up. I came in to fix the fratty reputation. I'm sorry, but I learned about UFC with guys who were in fraternities, that they were the ones who were playing it every Saturday. Do you think that this is
football
going
and
to
Bud
be
Light?
forgotten?
This has become every marketing department in a lot of American companies now, is they're chasing this phantom audience that they believe that they can expand their portfolio on, right? They think that there's this magical group. It's happened in comics, it's happened in films, and they always think there's this magical group of people. First of all, they don't have money. The people that they're actually looking to buy stuff for, they don't have money anyways, and they go looking for it, and then they end up destroying their own market share by insulting the people that they actually make the profit, make it for in the first place.
But then these guys come in on the other side. I don't know if you saw, I can't remember the name of the company. It's like Conservative Beer of America or whatever. It exploded.
Ultra-right.
Exploded in sales.
Ultra-right.
Like now.
Yeah, it's like $2 million or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I said Jeremy's Fighting Championship or whatever UFC stands for. Jeremy Boring's got a chocolate bar company. We got to order more of those, by the way. Everybody really loved them. But people didn't like the one with nuts. They liked the ones with no nuts because it's he, him, she.
I want him to make a dark chocolate bar. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm sure that name won't be offensive at all.
I'd love to see what he comes up with.
Yes, it'll be fantastic.
Let's just find out.
It is always funny though. Every time a new product has to come out, it's like Patriot Water, and some new product.
Stars and Stripes cereal.
Remember?
Hey, that's not a bad idea.
Okay, but if anyone makes that, I deserve a cut.
I think it was Ryan Long who did that video where it's like left-wing podcast sponsors versus right-wing.
Patriot Dirt.
The left-wing one was like, we're welcome to the anti-establishment, anti-government podcast sponsored by Monsanto. And then on the right, and on the right it was like Patriot Water. It's water but for patriots. And he's like,
and the other ones there's all MREs and and instant food. Yeah.
Left-wing podcasts all have massive sponsors from McDonald's. Big corporations.
Ryan Long doesn't miss.
Oh yeah, no, he had that really good one about Israel-Palestine. That was brilliant. Actor doesn't know who to support.
And they were another one of his that's been going around again recently is the one where he's like, I sell the footage to Fox and I sell the footage to CNN.
If you play it backwards, it looks fine.
No, he's like, I once sent a video to Fox News of protesters picking up litter, and I said, don't worry, if you play it backwards, they're littering.
Maybe this is who the DeSantis campaign needs, right? They need Ryan Long to come in and be like, this is how you respond to Ashley St. Clair's boot thing.
They need a Canadian to come in and fix it.
They need some foreign nationals consulting.
So this is the point I made about Trump, is that here's that one clip where he's like, the lights, they're too bright, they're making me look orange. And everyone busts out laughing. You can't make fun of Trump because Trump's in on the joke. DeSantis' campaign doesn't get that, or they're intentionally sabotaging him. So they're just like, don't make fun of me. You're stupid. You're dumb. And it's like, wow.
None of it's landing. None of it's sticking. It's just, his campaign's over. I mean.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know. But I will watch that debate between him and Newsom. Maybe Bud Light can sponsor that debate.
Yeah. I'm more interested in whether or not a UFC fighter comes out and says, yo, what? I don't want to fight on a...
You know what? Let me text a few right now.
Yeah. Would like some exclusive comments from them on air. That'd be great. I mean, my question again goes back to contracts. Like, what are they allowed to say? And I would be interested if in violation of their contract, potentially giving up a lot of money, they say something anyways, because I think that is what we need. People who are saying, I don't like this. And I didn't forget why we were boycotting Bud Light in the first place. I still remember why we were not buying things at Target. I mean, that's the effectiveness of the boycott. It's difficult for them to last forever, especially if there's no alternative. On the other hand, let's not forget why we went into them in the first place. It was earlier this year. We can't have seeded the ground so quickly.
Is that a big part of it, though? Is in Dana White's mind is the idea that they waited like a sufficient amount of time has passed, and trying it now is not the same as trying it in August or trying it in September.
For sure. I mean, I don't think you would have touched it in July, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, it makes me wonder about the money, and it makes me wonder about his potential other dealings.
I think it does not go well.
Yeah, there's no way, right?
This is not, I can't wait now to get back home and be like, WTF, what are you?
And all of these fighters that can be like, Bud Light, really? Gross.
Yeah.
They already hated it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now what, are they going to be forced to paint it on their face? Like when they walk out?
Yeah.
Bud Light flags, Bud Light cups. They're going to We'll know. Couple weeks. Huge fight, Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll see what Strickland and Covington and all those what to say about it too, because they've been pretty outright about their opinions. So
they're not gonna, as Tim said, they ain't shutting up.
No, definitely not.
I mean, unless they are made to shut up. That's what I come back to. Like, there are always obligations where.
I mean, yeah, but like these guys are just they don't care about the contract. Here, let's see what this UFC fighter said.
Oh my gosh! Breaking news live on Timcast. Yeah. Does he know you're on air right now? Are we allowed to say who it is?
Oh no, I'm not going to say who it is. But
what the heck? I just said we were having breaking news.
What did they say?
The fighters don't know about it and they're pissed.
So they found out with everyone else. They are the Sophie Turner to Joe Jonas.
It's kind of like how apparently all big news breaks nowadays. You don't tell your own people, you just tell the mainstream media.
This came out a couple hours ago. This news broke, and wow, it's a Tuesday evening is like the best possible day for Bud Light. It's maximum PR day, Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Friday and Saturday is like just
things get lost.
Unheard of to release something on Saturday.
Friday at 5.
Friday at 5 is where you bury it.
Yeah.
But they, like Bud Light was like, and we want you to announce Tuesday evening.
This is a great idea.
In the middle of a war, in the middle of,
He's like, could we soften it to Thursday at 10?
They were confident. It was a Tuesday. I just can't imagine though. Can you imagine like, this is a great idea. Dana White says yes, and everyone will not think about it.
Well, they're just going to see the power of UFC probably fade just a touch here on this one, because they might have the golden touch, but not the Bud Light golden touch. It ain't coming back. I'm sorry.
It's a tall order.
I mean, and the thing about the Bud Light boycotts is there are tons of people who work, in their breweries or whatever else, who are normal people who were swept up in a national controversy that I'm sure they didn't actually want to be a part of, right? Yeah. I mean, this is corporate leadership betraying the actual workers.
They're like Dylan.
Maybe Bud Light can sponsor Hamas.
I'll read the super chats more in detail, but I'll just paraphrase one saying that a lot of these fighters don't make a lot of money.
Yeah,
Dana White bringing in this money could help get these guys paid more, and I'm just like, look, if you're a pro,
doesn't make it to them.
If you've got sponsors, let's say you've got 5 sponsors, you've got companies A, B, C, D, and E, and then you decide to add on Bud Light, and now you have a big Bud Light patch on your jacket or your pants or whatever. Those other companies are going to be like, dude,
out.
We're done. We're cutting you off. I mean, look, if like we sponsored something and then someone decided to put Bud Light next to it, I'd be like, no way, dude. Like, we don't want to be associated with that. We're not going to sponsor if you're working with them, because it's just like, we don't agree with their values. It's bad across the board. That's a problem. I'm wondering, I don't know how sponsorships works for a lot of these fighters, but sponsorships are a big portion of how athletes make money. I assume it's the same for UFC. If they're now like, look, man, we don't want to be overlapping with Bud Light. Our audience, like, let's say there's a jerky company. They're going to be like, if people find out that we're sponsoring this stuff, like, we're going to lose money. We're better off sponsoring something else.
No, it's like 100 to 200,000 a patch, right? On a short or something like that. And you have like 2, maybe 3, right? So yeah, are you going to pull those off to put Bud Light on? And what is Bud Light going to offer you? Or is the UFC going to mandate that if you want to fight in the UFC, you have to have the Bud Light logo on your stuff?
And
that would force it. And then
I don't think it's likely, but there is a slim probability that there's a massive backlash to UFC over doing this Bud Light thing. Like you're mentioning, fighters are pissed.
Yeah.
I don't know to what degree people actually care, but let's just operate under the assumption there's a big backlash. I mean, the people screaming, cheering for Trump are going to be like, boo, it's going to be gnarly. And then if that does happen, you will get other sponsors going to UFC and being like, do not put our logo next to Bud Light. Yep. We do not want to be a part of whatever it is you're a part of. You do that, that's fine. Is Dana White risking losing other sponsors by doing this deal with Bud Light?
I think so. I mean, I just don't see how the loyalty brand that UFC has built up, and whether or not you think UFC's political, you have to just go to one of these events and look at the people and talk to them. They are dialed in. They are educated. They are more into the know about the news and mainstream media than people give them credit for, because they're like, oh, you guys just like fights. They're actually more dialed in than anything else. You can't get that kind of reaction to anyone walking in unless they know what the F's going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they side with them. Like, it's not like they hate them in unison. They went the other way. So if you fill a stadium full of people with like that for your sport, I can't imagine the other people watching it aren't feeling mostly the same way in some form. And especially the social media responses I saw were for people who weren't there were exactly the same way.
Someone in the regular chat said, everyone has a price, $1 Million Man. Even your mothers have a price. And that's just not true. It is not true that everyone has a price.
Most do.
Most do. And that price could actually be lower than people realize or higher than people realize. And I wonder if that's just people have not tried to sign deals before. Like, there are people with no price. None. And as we've tried to hire and acquire, you learn 90+% of people in the space, there is no price you could buy them for. 90+. And I'm not talking about compromising values. I'm talking about, we've gone to people who have like moderate social media followings and we're like, would you want to like join the Timcast team? And like, we would help distribute and market. And they're like, no. Why? I don't need it. What am I going to do with it? And I'm like, well, like we could help you make more money. We'll pay you more up front. We'll then seek ways to monetize. We'll then try and like, we'll promote it. And they're like, no, thanks though. It's just like,
it's not hostile. They just don't need it.
Yeah.
Right. It's for a lot of these people with social media and the internet, when they're making 6 figures on their own already, there is nothing you can offer them because they're like, freedom.
Yeah.
It's like, I could take a day off whenever I want. I answer to no one. I've got good money. For what reason would I sign this deal? And I'm like, you're right. Fair point.
And for most people, deals offer security, but if they feel confident, if they're established enough, like they don't need that either. It's like being a small business.
The challenge is most people worth hiring are people who have proven with a portfolio of their work and have already found ways of monetizing it in the modern era. So I, you know, it's not just that too, but especially in the world of political convictions, you'll find a lot of people are just unwilling to do deals. Hey, Bud Light had a price. I mean, UFC had a price. Yeah. I'm really interested to see like all the MMA fighters coming out being like, no.
And which one of them is going to be like 100 million? Are you kidding me? We could have gone for more.
Yeah.
Oh, for real. They could have gone for more. I bet if they went to Bud Light and says, this is your only chance, you gotta make it $1 billion. Some ridiculous number.
You should have.
$1 billion over.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Over the course over a period of time, the way they would do it is like $1 billion over 10 years or whatever.
I mean, maybe it's $100 million for the 10 years. Is there
Bud
a way
Light's
to get there?
a dead brand.
And the $100 million you're seeing isn't confirmed by the brands. It's just something you're seeing reported online, right?
A bunch of news outlets have reported $100 million.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. And you can come to the members only uncensored show coming up in about 25 minutes where we will take calls from you if you're in the members only Discord. You have to sign up at least $25 a month or be a $10 member for at least 6 months to submit questions. But let's read. Clint Torres says, howdy, people. He got the first super chat.
That's 2 days in a row.
My local gun shop says, I am the winner. No. Jason Take says, love you guys. Soko Patriot, howdy. My local gun shop follows up with no and crying emojis.
Sorry, man.
You didn't make it.
They must be there at like 7:39. They are so ready to go.
Yeah, finger on the trigger, kind of.
All right. Barely a Millennial says, do you think these bizarre pro-Hamas protests and rallies across the country and the world are the result of years of indoctrination?
Yes.
Or are they funded by someone like Soros or some other entity?
Yes,
maybe
all
both.
the above.
How do we expose it? So it's a combination. You will find when you go to these protests, if you accuse these people of getting paid by Soros, they're confused because none of them are. But of the 300 or 400 people you might see in a protest, there will be 10 who are paid by a nonprofit, which they don't realize receives a large amount of funding from the Open Society Foundation. Yeah. And then what they'll do is organize the protest, create an effort, a viral effort of tell your friends, come, this is when we're doing it. Then when all these people show up, they're like, what do you mean? We're not paid. This is not a paid event. It was like, this only exists because Open Society Foundation funded nonprofits and foundations, which the money trickles down to these nonprofits and NGOs, which then hire people to have them organize rallies. That's how it works.
Yep. True.
All right. Aino Baka says, hi all, longtime listener, first time super chatter. Would Kash consider becoming Trump's AG?
Listen,
I would say please.
Look, the mission for me right now is getting him elected. That's my job. Yep. So I will work tirelessly until November of next year to make that mission a reality. And look, I can share this. I have a lot of conversations with him, but the one I had in private that I thought was going to be like a 3-hour conversation, maybe like a year and change ago, when we didn't know what he was going to do. And I was like, what the hell am I going to do? You don't know what you're going to do. So I was driving up to Bedminster and I was like, okay, boss, I got I got the afternoon. Like, let's sit down and jam. What are you going to, and he goes, Kash, I'm all in. I go, all right, I'm all in. See you later. Shortest meeting I ever had, never looked back. And yeah, we've talked about how personnel should be set in the next Trump administration. It's a huge component of my book, Government Gangsters. Like, you can't just replace the secretaries. You got to go down 15 rungs in every single department, at the White House, every agency. I mean, we have the list, and I have the list of an index in the book. That's why it's called Government Gangsters. There's an index from A to B in the back of the book of every government gangster that I ever encountered.
Can I say a name?
Yeah, it's published. And so, like, if he asked me to come back at a high-level position, of course I'd go back.
But would you want AG or would you want, like, chief of staff? I mean, where would you want to be? Because they're very, very different positions.
Yeah, look, you have to, like, the AG position works if you have a great DAG and a great FBI director. Otherwise, you're kind of screwed. Or do you want to go do ops, or do you want to go take on DOD? I've worked in all three of those places, and they're all awesome. It would be great to have any of those jobs, but you need backing. And so I hope another government gangster doesn't slip through the cracks and, like, another rhino or uniparty clown shows up and says, well, yeah, I was rooting for you, but I wasn't really public about it. So I'm going to go hard to make sure, more than anything, people don't get in.
Yeah.
Because we actually know the guys and gals that are ready to go. And if you're not hearing their names in the mainstream media, then you kind of have your answer.
Which where there's an index of the gangsters, you said?
Yeah, it's in the back of the book.
What page? Like what am I looking for? Because there's a lot.
It's just a list of names in alphabetical order.
A list of names?
Yeah, it's probably after that section. Those are the.
There's end notes.
Maybe it's just before that. I should probably know that off the top of my head. I call the freaking book Government.
Yeah, because I'm at the end notes, like sources and citations.
Yeah, so you got to go to page 215.
Okay.
Appendix B, members of the executive branch, deep state.
Oh, wow.
Story time with Kash.
Yeah.
I love it.
Look. I mean, I figured if you're going to call them out.
There it is.
You got to freaking call them out. That's the whole point.
And it's nice to give people, like, oh, I've heard that name.
Bill Barr.
Well, right, yeah. There's one for
Another
you.
John Bolton.
But this is the thing. People are like, oh, this Trump guy's writing this book, and I probably name more Republicans than I do Democrats. And the point is, it's not a political mission set. They all get together to destroy what I thought was a duly elected presidency, and in my opinion, a national security mission. And here we are sitting in the remnants of that, right? 2 tiers of justice, 2 more global wars, no security at the border, and China kicking our butts across the world. And Trump was like, okay, everybody can write about those problems and highlight these people. How do we fix it? That's the core concept of Government Gangsters. Like, every single agency and department can be fixed, but this is what you got to do. It's going to take a lift.
All right. The Dungeon Delver says, Tim, please shout out my D&D group, Dungeon Delvers group on Twitch, where a Minotaur Mamacita means a female one. I appreciate all that you guys do.
I didn't know that.
We like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a lot of fun.
D&D. Bud Light coming your way.
Federale Actual says, dude, why are you letting Luke We Are Change claim Ian like Princess Peach and his super chats are going to some weird scammy website just because Florida has a beach? Drop him some dough for his weak infrastructure and brand it. I have no idea what you are talking about.
I like the idea
What about
that,
the
like,
beach?
Ian doesn't have free will. It's just like in the video game Tim has created of our lives.
Yeah, we're all battling over Ian.
One big simulation.
Ian just moves from place to place wherever he's sent.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Thinker for Life says, Cash, there's a huge opportunity for a conservative business incubation center in Michigan. It's a unique setup in a battleground town. It will go to liberals if we don't. I'm Thinker for Life on Truth Social as well.
Great. Splash it on Truth Social and let me know what your business idea is. I'll come see you.
Nice.
Then retruth it.
Do you miss Twitter at all? Or are you happy on Truth?
I've never been on Twitter
Oh, okay.
or Insta or whatever the other ones are called.
So you got social media only because of Trump?
You want to
He's
know
that
hilarious?
much of an influencer?
No, you want to know how hilarious it is? I hate social media. I was never on it. And then my former boss leaves president and creates Truth Social. I still didn't get on. Then my former boss, Devin Nunes, becomes the CEO of Truth Social. And so these two guys call me and they're like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm like, yeah, good luck. I wish you all the success. Have fun with social media. And they were like, no, you're on the board of directors.
So you have to.
So I laughed out loud. I was like, don't you want to hire somebody who's actually signed on to Twitter before?
Yeah.
I don't even know how to post.
You're like, no, you're a fresh perspective.
And now, like 1.1 million followers later, here I am on
It's a
Truth.
hell of an elevator pitch.
Yeah, right.
No, but that's it's fun, it's addicting, and you can make it an impact.
All right. Peter Gohawks says, in my opinion, these lawyers' lives were threatened and or families were threatened by the Biden 3-letter agencies. Why else flip that quick? FJB. Perhaps that may be the case, and I get it. I do, and that is an issue. But I suppose, as I mentioned before, it is unfair to compare any of these individuals to the founding fathers who sacrificed their families, their children, their loved ones, their sacred treasure to declare independence, to stand up against tyranny. It's kind of a crazy story. The founding fathers thought we would lose the war for independence and signed a document knowing they had just condemned themselves. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But they thought it was worth it. They had values that told them, you have to do this step and take this risk anyways.
I think so.
I'm imagining these guys are looking at each other like, well, we are going to lose everything we own. We're going to die. We can't win this, but it has to be done.
It's pretty ballsy.
It's amazing. It's the seeds that are planted that lead to a nation as great as the one we are, as it has become. No question.
I assume these people are facing a tremendous amount of pressure. It's a huge financial burden to fight any government in this type of ongoing lawsuit when they can just continue to ask the taxpayers to fund it. On the other hand, you have to say their families knew what they were advocating. Sometimes you have to be the first one into the foray, and it's sad, but you only have the opportunity to stand up for what you believe so many times in life, and this is the path they chose. Again, I can't imagine the pressure, but it doesn't change the fact that they said something and now revoked it.
Let's see. Niboop says Jenna's guilty plea is deferred, not filed as a judgment. Rob Gouveia broke it all down today. The judge accepted it, deferred it, and the case continues. What does that mean?
That just means she's on probation, and basically, if you screw up, everything comes back. That's not, that's not like
do you know what SOL means?
What? I don't think I could say that here.
No.
It's statute of limitations.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
When I was 20 years ago, I was in court. The judge, I was arrested for skateboarding. The judge calls up my name. He's like, next on the docket or whatever. And he said, the judge looks at it. He's like, they call my name. I stand up and he's like, what is this? And the prosecutor's like, skateboarding, Your Honor. And he's like, excuse me? And they were like, he was skateboarding on state property downtown. And he goes, is this a joke? And he was like, no. And he goes, he gets like, SOL, get out of my courtroom. He's like, you're not going to do it again? Get out. Yeah. And I was like, what does SOL mean? Like,
well, the other one meant out of luck, but the statute of limitation, he probably just needed a legal excuse to be like, oh yeah, you should have brought this. It normally means you have for every crime committed, there's supposed to be a number of years you can bring that crime. Right.
If they know about it and don't act, eventually it's gone.
And very few ones, like murder and terrorism, don't have a statute of limitations.
But also people think it means from the point of the crime, but it means from the point of discovery, right?
Well, or when they should have known about it.
Yeah.
Right. That, if the feds are sitting on the document, they're like, well, we just won't look at this for 10 years. Yeah. That doesn't count.
Interesting. But yeah, that was basically it. What was explained to me, that the idea was they could bring the charges back at some point, but they were saying to get out, they don't want to deal with it. It was stupid. Yeah, it was. There's a place in downtown Chicago, sidewalk I was skating on, and it was 3 a.m. too with my friends, and they wanted to make an example because they have a no skateboarding sign or whatever, but it's not illegal to skate. And so the judge was just like, why are you wasting the court's time?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There was some, that stuff happened to us. Like when we were going downtown, like post 9/11, any government building, they were very quick to make an example of you if you were skating on any type of government property at that time, because they were very, very,
try doing that post 9/11 and being brown.
Yeah.
I mean, people do it all the time today. There's tons of videos on YouTube of people skating in these same places with no issue. It's just, it is what it is. All right, where are we at? Wayne Smith says, went and saw Police State last night. First off, Cash, amazing job in it. P.S. really puts in the perspective how bad it's getting. Interesting.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Taking Back Toxic says, read the 12th Amendment. Trump and DeSantis cannot run on the same ticket. I've heard that before, but I've heard it disputed as well, so I don't know.
I mean, but that wasn't ultimately the reason that they did not team up.
They're never going on the same. It ain't happening. It's not happening.
Bo284327 says, did you see Preston Parr's tweet where he said he won the debate with you? He sounds like a grifter to me. Your thoughts? I don't consider it a debate when one person says, I hereby declare thing. The other person says, what is your evidence for thing? And the other person says,
I hereby declare thing.
I hereby. I'm like, I wasn't debating with him that he was wrong. I was asking him what his proof was, and when he didn't have any, I said, this is just you deciding you want this to be true. Mm-hmm. I don't care what your politics are. So this is he was arguing that he thought Netanyahu knew Israel would be attacked because Egypt issued a warning. Then there was a 7-hour stand down order. And I said, okay, what was the warning that Egypt issued? We don't know. Okay, so it could have been anything. It could have been Hezbollah's coming. It could have been from Jordan. It could have been from the south, from Syria. Who knows? So we don't know what that warning is. So there's very little to speculate on. Then he said there's a 7-hour stand down order, and I said, what's your source for that?
Right, where is it?
A guy who works for an NGO in Israel who works with the government said this, and I'm like, okay, single dubious source that doesn't actually have privy information, right. And then it benefited Netanyahu, and I'm like, yeah, that's possible, but all highly speculative. I don't see the point of bringing it up. Yeah, so there's not really a debate.
It's not, look, this is a much bigger conversation. I wrote 2 op-eds on Intel. We didn't miss it. We weren't looking, right? That's how this all happens. And the same with the Israelis. When you go through woke policies as your national security priorities, and you say, no, we need to look at climate change and the setting sun more than we need to look at, terror. That's literally what this administration has done. And then for them, and they're going to come and say this later, they're going to be like, well, there was this Intel analyst who knew that was going to be attacked. Saying you have intelligence that Hamas and Iran are going to attack Israel is like saying America possesses intelligence that the cartels are going to bring in drugs to the southern border. Like, if you don't empower the people with the jobs to take them on, it doesn't freaking matter what you do.
My thing is like, there was a reporting that Egypt warned Israel, and I'm like, the only quote we had was something big. And so imagine you get a warning at your house or your business that something big is coming. What do you do? What do you do with that information? You hire security guards? Okay. Right. And then some guy parachutes onto the top of your building and you're like, I never would have thought of that.
Or he digs up from under the floor. I mean, something big could come from any direction.
Yeah.
It's just impossible to say.
We don't know the nature of the warning. I'm like, it's possible, but I think it's silly to be like, I want to debate. It's like, you know what? I talked about it earlier today, what I'm calling Israel-Palestine derangement syndrome.
Israel.
IPDS. Because I mentioned this a little bit before the show that no one cares about Myanmar/Burma. Yeah. Since 1948, hundreds of thousands have been killed in this ongoing conflict. And even recently, there's tons of news. And it's like, there's nobody cares. 12,000 people
Most
have
people
died.
don't even know it's a country or
I
what
know.
it is.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I made the joke. I said, I tweeted, I'm going to get mad about Myanmar. And someone said, you mean Burma? And I'm like, thank you.
You watch Seinfeld.
Yeah, we'll make this the new. So it's like, I understand there's a religious component, but a lot of these people on the left are advocating for Palestine for literally no reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, it's current thing.
The people who are advocating for Israel typically have families in Israel. And however, many of these people have said very horrifying things. A former guest on the show basically called for nuking Palestinians, like just killing everybody.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No, it's insane. So it is very, very heated. I can understand why someone like Ben Shapiro is very upset. He has family there. He was just there. I respect that. I don't understand why your random college leftist is chanting in support of Hamas. And I'm like, you don't know anything about the region. There's no reason. I don't get it.
No, they're doing it because it's a cool thing to do. It's popular. It's in Rolling Stone. You have to, go out there.
Like wearing a Mao shirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Che Guevara, give me that.
Jason Hutchinson says, this is good. The Republican Party needs to end. It has been either ineffective at preventing what's happening today or complacent with it. I mean,
or complicit.
Yes. And
True.
people are like, should we be happy about having a speaker? And I'm like, this is a good thing.
I mean, it's definitely keeping us from sending money abroad right now.
Yeah.
And that's
what's the argument? If we had a speaker, we'd be funding more wars?
Can I just, so having gone through a government shutdown and being denied getting paid and being in one of the few jobs that actually never got their money back, I'm like the one of the 0.0000001% of people ever impacted by a government shutdown. Who watching this show or anyone that you know is actually impacted by a federal government shutdown other than the mainstream media to lay political blame?
VA benefits is the main concern.
But listen, troops, I got it. The troops and all that stuff, I got it. There's money in the coffers to fund that stuff. It doesn't run out because the government turns off. That is a bogus DC government fiction that they scare us into with, oh my God, the world's going to end. Remember in the Obama administration, the government shut down for months. Months. And I was a federal public defender and they named my small crew of people non-essential, so I never got paid back. But every other government employee got retroactive pay for the entire time once the government turned on. So I don't want to hear it.
So when is this the current CR supposed to expire?
No. Oh shoot, I should know that. 3 or 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
if they don't get a speaker in 3 or 4 weeks, there's just government shutdown.
Yeah.
All right.
Tim's like, do it.
Every libertarian is like going like, yeah. I'm not so much, I'm not so adamant about it. I think Matt Gaetz makes interesting points. We don't want people to go without pay. And
I get that. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. I got it. And I don't want them to do it. But
What's the alternative? We just keep providing funding to these lobbyists and massive corporations?
Oh, they are having a dance party in DC. The defense industrial complex and the lobbyists are turning it on.
Oh, their stock
This is a
spiking.
$500 billion machine you just gave like fentanyl to with, like ecstasy in it or something. I don't even know what those two do, but these guys are going out there buying Democrats and Republicans. $100 billion check to you. You get 10 million, you get 1 million. Get us this next DOD contract. The world is ending. We have to make new munitions and weapons and missiles. And
They're like, this is our COVID.
Yeah.
No, essentially, big pharma, right? Moderna and Pfizer.
Yeah.
Now there's a big five in the DoD industrial complex space.
Raytheon's like, let's go.
They're like, let's go. And the guys that are running these companies, the government gangsters that used to be the Secretary of Defense, the chairman of this, Secretary of the Army,
Some
they're
people
all getting paid.
We got a super chat the other day. A couple people mentioned this, that there's like some ammunition company, a company that makes ammo that switched entirely to government contracts instead of civilian.
That's a no-brainer.
I'm not super but I'm not super familiar. Maybe someone in the chat knows, but this is indicative of war.
Well, no, what it is indicative of is getting paid. So when you get on a government, what we call GOFO, a government-funded prime contract, a PRIME, you are set for life, especially if it's in the defense industrial complex space. Those are very hard to get, and they don't pay you for like a year. They pay you for like 15 budget cycles.
Right.
And they usually pay an inordinate amount. So government contracts supposed to go to like the lowest bidder who can do it best, but what we end up doing is delay, then paying the highest guy because we want to screw over the other guys because we were too slow in getting it right in the first place.
All right. Solrak says, family dog just passed away today. He was very loving, very fluffy, and very short. Rest in peace, Shorty. I will love and miss you. It was an amazing 16 years.
16 years is a long time. That's good.
Yeah,
Sorry to hear it, but rest in peace, Shorty. Kane Abel says, you think the government cannot write checks due to not having a speaker? They will do it behind closed doors in private.
But Biden can stroke checks.
True.
Yeah. Edward M says, ugh, WTF, the UFC signed a deal with Anheuser-Busch.
Don't get started. Cringe.
Oh, no.
So many weird things have happened this year, It's definitely not what I would have seen coming.
Still got 2.5 months left.
Philly James says, as a regular UFC watcher, I couldn't tell you the sponsor from this last Saturday fight. Don't care about still watching the fights. Yeah, see? Matt Allen says, I canceled my UFC Fight Pass subscription today.
I bet you'll get some from each of those camps, right?
Yeah.
So the people who are, that person who is clearly politically aware because they're watching this show and still values the entertainment over that.
There's no alternative, right? Like you could say,
go?
I'm going to buy another beer, but you're not going to watch a different fight.
Right.
Especially now that they own WWE.
What are you going to go? Watch Power Slap?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, go do that. There you
Dude,
go.
that stuff is wild.
Seth
I've
We-
seen it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Seth Weathers says, those MFers beat us by 100 million to be the official UFC beer sponsor. Brutal. Imagine if UFC decided just to go with ultra right,
That would be
conservative
sick.
dad's ultra right
crazy.
beer. And they were just like, because you could theoretically do it. $100 million, they say, right? You could theoretically, Seth could do the same deal, and it's based off contingency. It's like, we'll do a $100 million deal, which basically means once we sell up to that number, it all goes to you, and then afterwards, it goes back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally
Be
worth it.
interesting. Yeah.
Well, you can find some venture capitalist rich guy who's totally on board the anti-Bush light, whatever Budweiser train and be like, I'll give you the check.
We'll make our own fighting league for MMA.
You just want Jeremy to get in this space.
Jeremy.
Timcast Lager.
We need the Jeremy signal. It's like a light in the sky, and it signifies, Jeremy, that a company's gone woke and there's an opportunity for a business venture. I think he's only done 2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, technically,
Well, no, he's doing the Snow White movie too.
right,
which is,
right. Like this
Snow
is,
White, yeah.
but it's funny because like the MO is basically there is a clear path to success that's been proven, and they've abandoned it. So all Jeremy is doing is being like,
I'm getting back on the path.
like Snow White is a huge success. They've made a crappy version. I'll make it, and then I'll get rich. Like,
Right. They don't care about selling it.
it's a proven money-making venture, and they've abandoned it. I'll take it.
He's gonna have to open the Daily Wire store right next to Target.
Yeah. It's like Congress for Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like where's Jeremy's grocery?
Yeah. Yep.
Could you imagine like 100 years from now, it's like literally everything is just like Public Square's one company. It's Jeremy's everything.
No, it's terrifying. I don't like that either.
Yeah,
that's too much for me.
Isn't the Aldi's guy pretty based though? Because he's like a hyper capitalist, and he's
The Aldi's
and
guy.
Aldi's is one of the top organic grocers. Or it used to be one of the top organic grocers in the U.S.
I remember he did the thing with Rogan where he's like, "Oh, these people, they don't understand how money works."
Okay, Boomer Dad. Thank you. I'm just kidding.
What do we got? Beef Nasty says UFC is going to take Bud Light money and run. UFC fighters will rag on Bud Light and they won't care. If a fighter brings PPV's money in, Daddy Dana don't care if they smack talk Bud Light. That's what I'm saying. How many people are going to be like, so what? Free money. They're going to get made fun of. Bud Light's it's going to hurt Bud Light more because now everyone's going to make fun of them.
Yeah.
They can't.
And they obviously cannot abandon their hyper-masculine brand. That's what they have learned through all of this.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Which that's a win for men. Good job, guys.
I'm betting it tanks.
Yeah.
More likely.
KCB says Trump's lawyers trading their principles because they've never had to weigh them against the machine. If they went to prison and pro bono legal services for everyone in the prison, they'd be out in 6 months. Their strength and weakness. You know, it's that line from Mighty Mighty Bosstones. I'm not a coward. I've just never been tested. I like to think that if I was, I would pass. These people were tested and they all failed.
Every one of them.
I can't believe there was a Mighty Mighty Bosstones reference.
Well, I mean, come on, Dickie is in the band with he's with Pete Parada and the Defiant now. Mighty Mighty Bosstones is back in the playlist, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah, listen to Dead Language by the Defiant. That song's great. It's about just like society's become so brutal and no one's paying attention anymore. They're all on their phones. Yeah, good song.
5 Times August was on our show last week, and after the release of this new single, which is basically calling out all the musicians who shilled for Big Pharma.
Nice. And that was Friday too, right?
Yeah.
And that was actually the day we had the music all set up. We could have totally had him come up and jam.
Complete interoffice communication.
We have to work on that.
Come on, Brett. That's
all right. Everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, but head over to timcast.com right now. Click join us because the members only show is starting in a few minutes. You don't want to miss it. You can follow us at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Cash, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, selfishly. Buy it. Help me pay for college. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, it was a chore writing the book, but I think I did Government Gangsters because people kept saying, what do we do? You want the answers? They're in here. The government receipts are in here. The gangsters are in here.
How many books do you need to sell to pledge to become the AG?
100,000. Let's go.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a tough book market. I'm already a bestseller in Wall Street Journal and Amazon. New York Times, we're like, oh, you sold enough books to be a bestseller, but we're not putting your book on.
So the point is, you can't make yourself AG, but so it's not really something you can guarantee. But if you sell 100,000 of these books, you will pledge to do everything with your power to become the AG.
Ooh. Maybe 200,000.
I think you want a different position. That's my new theory.
You might be onto something. We can talk later. But yes, thank you. Buy it. GovernmentGangsters.com.
Yeah, buy the books. Also, hard copy books are great, and we're going out into Christmas and stuff. So gift it to everyone you know. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on the social medias, on X, on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever they are these days. I don't know if we're on Truth Social. Maybe
gotta get on. Join the party.
And if you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter or X at HCBrimlow. Thank you guys so much. And also, Brett's here.
Oh, yes, guys. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. Come hang out with me and Mary. It's a lot of fun.
And I am Serge.com, newly minted on Truth Social. I'm
yes, to be verified.
Yeah, apparently Cash will verify me. Yeah. So follow me on Truth Social. I'm on Twix and all the other sites as well. See you there.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in just a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.